compelling case from what we heard. But for the first time, or among so many killings that the police have done, for the first time it seems as though justice won out. And so I wanted to know what you all think about that, and feel free to call in and let us know. The other thing I wanted to talk about is all these things that are taking place here in Philadelphia. We've talked many times about the police and how they've been acting and the things that are going on from a negative perspective, how they wrote these emails, sent these emails out, and some of them were convicted. I mean, not convicted. Some of them seem to have lost their jobs or been put on suspension, but others got away, or seem to be getting away with it. I don't want us to forget about that. We need to make sure that all of those people that were found writing those emails with negative comments about African Americans or any other race get what is due to them, and they should, I believe that they should be removed. So the first thing we want to talk about is the police and the murder that took place in Texas. And what's your thoughts on? Do you think the jury came out with the right answer? And if so, what kind of reaction do you think this country is going to have as a result of that? Hi, Rita. Good to see you here today.
Yes, good morning, Ms. Emma.
Yes. I'm talking about the murder and the fact that it looks like finally justice has been served. And a police officer who blatantly killed someone has been not only accused, but had a jury trial of her peers, and they found and issued a sentence of murder. And so we're not sure how many years she's going to get yet. They're still deciding that. But the fact that they convicted her has made me feel good and feel like maybe things will turn around in this country finally, where the police cannot get away with their abuse of regular folks.
That's right. And I think that it's a win for the people.
Yes.
It's a win for the family.
Right.
It's a win for the community, where they can feel like they're not being discounted.
Right.
Where they actually count and matter.
Exactly.
And so there were people of color on the jury.
Yes.
And that always
helped.
makes a difference.
Yes.
That always makes a difference.
Yes.
And so we can't stress enough the importance of jury duty
And
in our
people of
community.
color serving on the jury.
Yes,
Mhm.
and people of color serving on the jury, because then it's truly a jury of your peers.
Right.
If people don't look like you,
Right.
and they're judging you,
Mhm.
and they're judging the facts,
Right.
they can't look at it
From our perspective.
from
Yeah.
our experiences,
Right.
and knowing all of the things that we have to contend with as people of color in this country.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult for someone who is not a person of color, a white person,
Mm-hmm.
to understand and to relate
Right.
to the things that go through our minds, the things that we experience that make a difference in the choices that we make.
But this man was in his house, sitting on his couch, eating ice cream, relaxing, and someone walks in the door, and unfortunately he hadn't locked it, and comes in.
I know.
And comes all the way into the apartment and pretends that they didn't recognize that it wasn't their apartment because they live in the same building on the lower floor. I can't even imagine that.
I can't imagine that either. That kind of mistake just doesn't make sense, and it didn't make sense to the jury.
And he must have been horrified when this happened.
Horrified,
Yeah.
and scared out of his mind,
Exactly.
and unfortunately lost his life over a mistake.
Exactly.
Over a mistake.
Well,
And
there must not have been a mistake because they accused her of murder.
that's right.
So it must have been deeper than that.
It was way deeper than just a mistake.
Yeah, and we don't know why. Why did she do it? That's what I haven't been able. That is the question. Why did she do it? Was she interested in him, and maybe he didn't give her a wink, or something along those ways? It looks like to me that because she had broken up with her previous boyfriend, the policeman, her partner, And it looked to me like she might have been interested in this guy, and he didn't give her the attention that she wanted.
Right.
And so she decided to go in and shoot him. At least that's the way to me,
because there's no reasonable explanation as to why it
Why
happened.
was she in that apartment? That's right. Why did she go up there?
And why did she go up there like that and enter his apartment?
Yeah.
And so her explanation wasn't credible.
No.
Her explanation
not at all.
was not credible.
I don't think we got the explanation. That's the problem. Where is the answer to why did she do it? And so that's what I thought we would talk about and see if anybody has any ideas to tell us what they think happened. Because I truly believe that it might have been that she was interested in him and he didn't give her any play. Okay? And the other thing that we're talking about is the emails. We haven't forgotten all the police that wrote those emails against the African Americans and what's happening with that. We need to follow up on that and making sure that's not lost, because a lot of times things will show up in the paper or there'll be these investigations and we hear about it and we feel horrible about it and we talk about it and then they disappear. There's nothing else happening with them. So we want to make sure that the police that wrote those emails are being suspended and or fired in accordance with what the investigators think should happen. And so I do want to follow up on that because nothing has happened on that.
Well, they haven't.
Excuse me.
I think they've dismissed some of the officers,
right?
But we want to know what's going on with the rest of the officers.
Yes.
So there's been some movement, but not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough.
And I don't want to get. I want to make sure that it's not pushed under the table, and so often happens when things happen in our community. Oh, we see about it in the paper, and it's one-day news, but nothing really comes out of that.
Yeah, we have to stay vigilant and follow that because it was a big outcry in the community.
Yeah.
And Solomon Jones and others got together and they organized and they protested,
right,
and demanded that there be some action taken towards these officers. And so many in our community felt the same way and still do feel the same way.
Yeah.
That it's difficult to imagine a police officer ranting racial slurs and epithets towards our community, and then he's able to go out onto the streets and safely and fairly serve our community.
Well, you know what's in his mind.
Right, when he has these feelings about our community that are not good feelings, they're not fair to us.
Exactly.
And when you have those prejudgments and preconceived notions and biases towards a whole community of people, it comes out in the actions, in the way you police them, in the way you service them, and it shows. And we're not dummies. We know exactly what's going on.
Exactly.
And so we do want action and we want follow-up.
That's right.
We do.
Mm-hmm. Now, I just wanted to know, our fearless leader, Joanne, is being honored next Saturday, just as a side note. And we're excited about it. In fact, I think I'll send out notices about it because...
that is wonderful.
Yeah, it's this group that's honoring her. And so we want to make sure on the 12th. And let me see, I've got to find the information on it. But I know, remember we had, Rashida Boyer here? Mm-hmm. And she told us that Joanne would be getting the award, the Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you, Kayla. Lifetime Achievement Award on the 12th.
It's so fitting.
Yes. In fact, Kayla is getting all this excitement on the 13th. That's right. I haven't forgotten it, Kayla.
Kayla, what's going on?
Yes, she's getting honored on the 13th. And not being honored, she's being installed on the 13th.
On the 13th.
Yes.
All right, Kayla J.
And since I'm a great church woman, I want Kayla to tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll be ordained and licensed on Sunday, October the 13th, as an official missionary
Wow.
Because women in my denomination, we aren't called reverends, we're called missionaries.
Congratulations.
Yes.
And I'm really excited about it.
You should
really
be.
excited about
So
it.
you'll be preaching from then on, right?
Well, I preach now, so I always said I was riding dirty.
Oh, are you?
And my bishop said, when you going to stop riding dirty
That's
and let
right.
me give you a license?
Yeah. and tell everybody who your bishop is.
My bishop is none other than Bishop Ernest Carmar Sr.
That's right.
So I grew up under great stock, and he told me I needed to stop riding dirty.
So that's so funny.
You got to come out and talk about who you are, right?
That's right. That's right.
And be recognized for it, and we're very proud of you. So I want to make sure I haven't forgotten it because I intend to be there. I think it's 3 o'clock.
Yes, 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. And it's at where?
It's at the Mount Airy Church of God in Christ.
Right, 3 o'clock.
Yes.
So we got to come and see you be installed. The award that Joanne's being honored is called it's the Black Brain Campaign, their annual mental health awareness weekend, and they're having something called a Green Tie Banquet. And so I guess the men are supposed to wear green ties, and we want to make sure that our Black Women's Leadership Council recognizes our fearless leader and make sure that we have our people out there to support Joanne Bell when she's honored next on the 12th. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'll talk to Charlene.
Reality Check. Reality Check. Hosted by Charles Ellison. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com.
If you're looking for a great paying part-time job with flexible hours, check out 2020 Census Jobs. You may have another job or not. You may even be retired or looking for some extra income, but you can also help make sure that everyone gets counted. So apply today at 2020census.gov/jobs to help strengthen your community.
Listen live at wordradio.com.
WinCoat Wellness is changing the way the world ages by redefining home care. WinCoat Wellness makes it possible to achieve independent living through companion care. If you or someone you know has a loved one who is in need of home care services, the enrollment process is seamless. Give them a call at 215-277-5914 to begin enrollment with their dedicated team or home care associates, and before you know it, you'll be receiving care. Call now, 215-277-5914.
Add something delicious to your day at McDonald's, like a double cheeseburger for $2 or a McChicken for $1. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with combo meal.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Look at me. I am changing, trying every way I can. I am changing. I'll be better than I am. I'm trying to find a way to understand, but I need you, I need you, I need a hand. I am changing, seeing everything so clear. I am changing. I'm gonna start right now, right here. I'm hoping to work it out, and I know that I can, but I need you. I need a hand. All of my life I've been a fool who said I could do it all alone. help me start all over again. Oh, that would be just fine. I know it's gonna work out this time, 'cause this time I am. This time I am changing. I'm getting my life together now. I am changing. Yes, I know how I'm gonna start.
Good morning again. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership Council, and this is Emma Chappelle. We're excited about the fact that we have a couple calls, and then we're blessed to have Cindy Bass here with us, Councilwoman Cindy Bass, and we'll be talking to her in a few minutes. Charlene, line 1.
All right, how are you this morning?
I'm great.
Good morning.
How are you?
Okay, well, I was so happy yesterday about what happened, about how the woman was convicted.
Yes, me too.
The police officer.
Yes, that police
The
officer.
police officer.
So I'm calling this morning
Yes.
to tell our young people about going down to City Hall and vote. I mean, well, more than vote, excuse me.
Right.
I want them to serve on jury duty.
That's right.
It's so important. It's so important.
On jury duty, there are African Americans that were on that jury.
Yes, 4 or 5 of them. 4 or 5 out of the 12, I think. And that really helped. I think that went a long way.
It helps. I'm telling you, I have been on the jury. I have served jury. I have watched people that did things that were wrong and that were right.
Right.
That were right.
Right.
They wanted to convict them. When you go down there, it's a room full of cocaine.
That's right.
You know, all the black people are the ones that are being convicted.
And
Yes.
and we're the ones that get off, find a reason to get off, and we really, to not serve, and we really need to serve.
That's right. Because proportionately, it's our community that's being
Tried.
that's being tried.
Yes.
It's time for us to serve.
Yes.
And I am 70 years old. They no longer want me. Back in my day.
Yes.
Back in my day.
Yes.
They can't change me. When you get on the jury, you will have those Caucasians that will try and convict these black men for no reason.
That's right.
I'm telling you, I see it.
And that's why we need to be present on the jury.
That's right.
And this was a good
So
example of that.
So our perspective can be heard
That's right.
That's
and
right.
and seen
and
because,
represented.
because they listened to her and all the lies she came out with, and realized that she was just lying.
Yeah, and convicted her.
And convicted her.
Yes.
Yes, and this is what we have to do. Our young people need to get up and go and serve on the jury. When you get there, it's a room full of Caucasians.
That's
That's
right.
right.
To count the African Americans.
Well, thank you, Charlene. I'm just glad that you did serve when you did, and that we encourage more people of color to go and serve on the jury duty when you're called.
That's right.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
It's all of our responsibility to serve.
It really is.
It really is. Don't
Line
try to
2,
get out
Mary.
of it.
Yes,
Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm fine. I
That-
just want to say good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mary.
I just wanted your listeners to know that some cases should not be heard by arbitrators or administrative law judges
Uh-huh.
because the majority, they are not law judges.
Right.
Because I was offered a position as an administrative law judge,
Uh-huh.
when I worked for the state.
Yes.
When you talk about discrimination with the police department, where they're looking at focusing on black people, brown people, anyone that doesn't look like them.
Right.
And they put this information on the system. This definitely should not be heard by an arbitrator.
Right.
Those are labor disputes.
Mm-hmm.
When it goes past that, it can only be heard by a law judge.
Right.
And people need to be aware of that. if they're not firing these people based on their illegal actions and they're resigning, and we have to take care of them based on their pension, no, they need to be held accountable for this.
I agree.
You know,
yes.
And don't stop at just an arbitrator decision, even if you have to sue the city.
Right.
You know, simple as that. And Kenny and all these other mayors, they would just go along just to get along with the police department, knowing that this exists. And when you're bold enough to put this out in the public,
right,
then you need to be fired. You need to lose your benefits.
Yeah.
Not having me as a taxpayer to take care of you for the rest of your life.
And you're talking about those who wrote the emails, right?
The ones who wrote the emails,
right.
The ones that shoot unarmed black people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That.
Oh, yeah.
No,
it's totally
definitely.
out of control.
Take it to court.
Yeah. I agree.
And with a legal system, no arbitrators, because they do not know the law. You know, I went up against an arbitrator based on a personal injury that I had. And I had to take it to federal court all the way to the Supreme Court because they said that the law did not exist.
Right.
And the law was in place for 40 years. You know, so when you go up in front of arbitrators and administrative law judges, they do not know the law, and they do not take time to look at what the law
really is about. Well, we thank you. Thank you for your call. And,
thank you.
And your position. All right. All right, now we're here with Cindy Bass, Councilwoman for City of Philadelphia.
Welcome.
District 8.
Good
District 8, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're very pleased to have you.
My pleasure.
And we wanted you to start out by telling us where your district is and what committees you're on and what does a council person really do?
Okay, well, sure, I'd be happy to start there. Okay, so again, I'm Cindy Bass. I'm the council person for the 8th Council District, which includes, if I start at the top of the district, it's Chestnut Hill, Mount Airy, Germantown, Nicetown, Tioga, part of North Philadelphia, part of West Oak Lane, part of Olney, part of Logan, part of Feltonville. And
boy, it's a large part.
It's
pretty good distance.
yeah, it's a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
And so, as you can imagine, in very different neighborhoods, we go from Northwestern Avenue again in Chestnut Hill.
Wow, way up
to,
there?
Yeah, all the way where the stables are, all the way down to Broad and Lehigh, and then over to 2nd and Boulevard.
That's a
lot
large
of coverage.
Yes, it is.
That's big.
That's pretty big.
Yeah.
But listen,
and it's a difference of the people that live in
very different.
Yeah,
very different.
Yeah.
And you know, some folks will say, "Oh, well, you know, this neighborhood needs this and this neighborhood needs that, and they don't need, you know, Chestnut Hill or Mount Airy doesn't need." I think that every neighborhood needs something, but what that something is varies from neighborhood to neighborhood.
Right. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. And some areas, you know, you have, you know, people are really just struggling to survive. The needs are survival needs, and then you have other areas that have more aesthetic needs. I would say, you know, the lighting or the you know, design or, you know, things of that nature.
The trees
and greenery and all that. You know,
and
you know, it's very important that we address everyone's needs.
Sure.
So,
absolutely.
Those are the neighborhoods and the people that we serve. In terms of committee, I have the privilege and honor of serving as the chair of 2 committees, Health and Human Service, which includes departments like DHS, the prisons, the city's health department, and so forth. And also, I am the chair of Parks and Recreation, which also covers Parks and Recreation, but also the library system. It also covers, you know, all of our museums and cultural venues in the city. So, you know, there's a lot to be done.
It sure is.
And, you know, we use those committees as an angle to work on some of the things that we want to do around quality of life. Our focus has really been on serving quality of life, addressing quality of life issues in underserved neighborhoods in particular.
Well, and that's so important, quality of life issues. Now, I was in City Council the other day, and I think you're vice chair of a committee that dealt with the lead paint
Correct.
On properties, right? And I know Blondell Reynolds Brown got a lot of attention and,
Yes.
and respect for all the hard work she did to make a difference
Very
on the
important.
lead in these houses and apartments and places where kids are being raised.
Yes.
And I saw where you were vice chair of that. Or
Oh, yes.
you're vice chair of that. And so that's environment, and what is that committee called?
The Committee on Environment.
Environment.
Yes.
And I just thought that was so important issue, because a lot of our children scrape the lead off the walls and,
Yes.
and eat it and have it in their mouths and all kinds
Yeah.
of things.
Yes.
And it's harming. It affects their brains when they're young kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
And it's irreversible.
Yeah, and it's irreversible.
Irreversible damage.
So I
Yes.
really appreciate the work that you all did on that. And go ahead.
I was just going to say there is no safe amount of lead.
No.
There is no safe amount. And so, I thank the councilwoman. I think we had to do something really dramatic and drastic.
Yeah.
And while we want to be sensitive to, our housing stock, the landlords who own that housing stock, but we need them to be partners in making sure that our children are safe.
That's
our
right.
children
That's
are
right.
our priority,
Yeah.
and they're always going to come first over any sort of financial or monetary or property.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have to put our children first. They are our future.
That's right. They're our future. And that leads me to my next question when it comes to the schools and this attendance
Yes.
issue that's going on in schools. And what do you think City Council should do in something like this? And
Well-
what can you all do? Because I think that a lot of kids do cut school.
I think you're right.
Of
Yeah.
course.
They're cutting school.
Of
They've
course.
been cutting school since
That's
Since
right.
we were kids.
well,
Yeah.
it wasn't me,
Or
but
not you, when I was
not
kid.
you,
Not me
not you
either.
Yeah.
I went to class.
No, not at all.
But we're familiar with
Right.
the concept.
Absolutely.
Yes,
For
yes.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
But I think there needs to be better checks and balances going on.
Absolutely. Well, so, there's an article I just saw in today's paper in terms of council pushing back on the district's response. And so, look, we want our children to succeed. I think that that's something that we all share in common.
Right.
The district wants our kids to succeed. We want our kids to succeed. How do we make that happen? The answer can't be providing less information. It has to be providing more information so we can really get into the weeds of this thing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
When we look at the current system in terms of how attendance is tracked, it's tracked by swiping in. And so I have a whole lot of questions about that.
Me too. Yeah.
If you decide to go to school and I don't feel like coming in, are you swiping? Did you even
Swipe for me?
Right.
Swipe for me today, and I'll swipe for you tomorrow.
Right.
Exactly.
Because that's the way attendance is being verified. But if I'm in Miss Chappelle's class and she says I haven't seen Cindy all week,
Right.
then there's a problem. There is a
Exactly.
problem, and
The
even
teachers
though
got to follow up on this.
the teachers have to follow up, and in conjunction with the principals
Right,
and
the
the
administrators.
administration.
Right.
So we need all hands on deck because our kids need to be in school.
Absolutely.
And our system is in many ways it's failing our kids on different levels in different areas. When we look at our classroom environment,
Right.
when we look at the environment, there's a school in my district. I won't call its name just yet.
Okay.
But we will be calling its name in a public way if we don't get some help around addressing the environmental needs. We talk about
Asbestos or-
asbestos and lead.
And lead.
Yeah.
And
lead.
so, and as we just said, there is
That's
no
right.
safe
No.
amount of lead
Or
And-
asbestos.
Or asbestos.
asbestos.
That causes cancer. And cancer.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes.
right.
Absolutely. And we know that particularly this particular school that I'm referring to is an elementary school.
Mm.
And
Well,
so
young
we
kids.
know
wow.
that 6 and under are really at risk
Wow.
for lifelong learning and emotional and just all kinds of disabilities when exposed to lead.
Right.
Okay.
So we have to do something. There is a sense of urgency that must be
Addressed. Yeah.
addressed in this matter. And I say, listen, if the district can't do it, we're all taxpayers, and we're taxpayers not just to the city of Philadelphia, but to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Right.
Why can't my kid go to Lower Merion? Why can't my kid go
Go to another
Plymouth
school.
White Marsh?
That's
Why
right.
can't we look at Radnor as an option?
Right.
Let's start looking outside the box. And I know that currently case law says that it is illegal for me to send my child to a district that's outside of the school district of Philadelphia if I'm a Philadelphia resident. But one of the biggest problems we have in the city and the state is that we have 501 school districts.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
and
in Pennsylvania.
and it allows people to carve up a district to suit them and theirs. It's not right.
I want to hold you on that point and come back to it. We need to take a break.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Andrea Delzell, and I've been using a wheelchair since I was 5 years old. If I had one message for the general public, it would be relax. Some folks get really flustered around disabled people, so they just pretend we're not there. I've actually had waiters talk to my companion and completely ignore me. People with disabilities just want the same respect and consideration as everyone else.
This is a message from United Spinal Association. Download our disability etiquette booklet at unitedspinal.org.
Support independent black media and join the 4Word movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Tune in the first Wednesday of the month for EcoWord's Pico Energy Wednesdays during Reality Check with Charles Ellison at 5 p.m. Pico, powering communities.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Gave you my heart and then you ran away. Either I'm stupid, I'm foolish, or you're playing me. But it seems we were never really meant to be. So I thought I would try something new. I wanted to find out if I could live happy without you. And it turned out I wasn't living at all. But I would have never known if you had just played alone. I was living a dream, believing things that just ain't true. Oh, I can't believe I ever believed in you. You had me chasing fool's gold. I was chasing fool's gold. I was chasing fool's gold. Somewhere deep down inside I knew you wasn't right. But breaking your spell was a plan I never devised. I would have been here forever living for you. But I would have been living forever at your phone. I was living a dream, believing things that just ain't true. Oh, I can't believe I ever believed in you. You had me chasing fool's gold. I was chasing fool's gold. I was chasing fool's gold. I bit into the apple. I took the wooden nickel. Yeah, I was blinded to my core, and I went into the mall.
Hi, this is Emma Chappelle again, and we're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership Council. And as I said earlier, our black leader, our fearless leader, Joanne Bell, is on vacation this week, but she'll be back next week. And I'm here filling in as her co-conspirator. And I told her this morning we miss her and we look forward to her safe return.
Yes, we do.
And
We miss her.
as I mentioned earlier, she's being honored on October the 12th by this organization called the Black Brain Campaign Annual Mental Health Awareness Weekend. And we're looking forward to it. We'll have more information on that and send out notices because we want Joanne to have the kind of support she deserves.
Yes.
Now, we were talking to Councilwoman Cindy Bass when we left earlier, but before she speaks again, I wanted to listen to Leon, who's online too.
Hi, can you hear me? How you doing?
Fine, yes. Leon. How
Good
you
morning,
doing?
Leon.
All right. Good morning to your guests.
Yes.
Good morning.
All right. Several things, if I have a chance to just talk about it. But
yes.
First, the absenteeism in the school district. I think it's time to ask the question, why are so many children not going to school?
Right.
What is it about that environment that you have all of these children would rather just skip?
Right. They probably feel like they're not learning much.
Right.
I think that has a lot to do with it. They think they're there, but they're not necessarily learning what they should be
They're
learning.
not being engaged.
The way they should.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of behavior.
Yeah.
Conflict resolution that way around behavior and focus on behavior instead of teaching.
Exactly.
You know, there was a piece in the paper when this whole story was first exposed about a young lady who was at a school, and it talked about, or she described how, you know, she was exhausted, it sounded like, mentally and physically. She was helping at home with some younger cousins, getting them off to school, cooking dinner for them in the evening.
I remember that
and
story.
it sounded as if she was just frazzled, you know, from life. So
And
she
so
couldn't,
that's
you know,
right.
she couldn't focus. But the thing I thought was most interesting is that she said when she didn't show up for school, nobody in the school pulled her aside and said, "Hey, you know, Susie or Jackie or whatever,
Right,
you know,
right.
Where you been?
Right.
Are you okay?
Right. Is something going on?
Is something going on? What's happening with you?" And she felt like she was invisible. She felt like no one cared that she wasn't there.
And that means a lot.
It
So
means
she
a
figured,
whole
I
lot.
don't have to, why am I straining to go there?
Right. No
I'm
one-
worn
no
out
one
in the first
notices.
place. No one knows.
Yeah.
And so it's not to ignore the fact that the administration, the teachers, the staffs at our schools are overworked
Right.
and
Yes.
underpaid.
Oh, yes.
And they have to deal with so much more than just curriculum
Yeah.
and education. There's so many other issues in our community that come into the classroom, that come into the school environment. So we're not discounting that. But what we are saying is that you're an educator and you do have to engage these students. You must engage them.
Yeah,
And
but that
someone
leads-
needs to notice when a child isn't in class
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 days,
Right.
missing 5 days out of a month. There's something going on, and someone needs to notice
And it used
someone.
to be they contacted the parents.
That's right.
yeah.
So
I
what
could,
happened?
I
what
could
happened
never
to
be
that?
absent from
Yeah,
school
what
without a
happened?
call coming home
Oh, yeah.
to my parents.
There used to be like a robocall.
Yeah,
even.
exactly.
Remember that?
Yes.
And that wasn't that long ago.
That wasn't that long. But you know, we're really leading to what we were talking about when we were on a break. And I really want to get that point across. Where we talked about the corporations.
Right.
And these schools the teachers don't have resources themselves. A lot of them are missing
That's right.
resources. And I'm really what you call focused on, I think with all these big successful corporations we have in this city, we need to come up with a system and someone who will lead the effort for them to adopt schools.
Absolutely.
And if they would adopt schools and see to it that the teachers had what they needed and more resources, and or what you're suggesting that maybe our kids could go to schools outside the district, or, since there's 501 school systems throughout Pennsylvania, we need to come. Listen, we have intelligent people in this city.
Yes.
Why haven't we addressed this issue? And I think that you were talking about some ideas that you thought that might work because of all the money. Almost every corporation gets government assistance,
Right.
some way
City
or another.
or state
Some
assistance.
government, and they need to give back.
Well, I think I just want to go back to your question. Why haven't we fixed this?
Right.
In the city of Philadelphia, and I'm not going to
Exactly.
say in the Commonwealth because
Right.
public education works great in Lower Marion. Public education
Yes.
works great
Yes.
in Plymouth Township, Plymouth White Marsh. You know, it works great out in Radnor,
In
and
Radnor,
in a lot
absolutely.
of these places. And so, you know, this is something that can be fixed. Let's not suggest or assume for 1 second that this is some insurmountable problem that we can never fix, can't find a solution to. No,
Right.
this can be fixed.
Right.
This is something that is doable.
Exactly.
But we
I
need to
do. I agree, Cindy. If we just get creative,
Yeah.
Yes.
if we get creative and think outside the box instead of the tried and true method of dealing with the issues with the school system,
But it takes leadership.
it does. It takes leadership.
Someone has to envision this idea and take it on as a mission. And that's what I think we're really looking for. We're looking for leadership. Somebody has to say, or we have to encourage someone to say, I'm going to take this on, just like when they want to have a big concert in the city, the people get together, the corporations, they put up a whole lot of money and have this big event.
Yes.
Well, why can't we get them to do the same thing for the school system when our children are in these schools?
We
You know
can
what I'm saying?
if we make it part of policy, if we make it part of how the tax breaks are given out and what the qualifiers are for that.
Right.
If we think outside of the box, maybe we can come up with a solution where a corporation will have to adopt a school or 2 schools or 3 schools, depending on the amount of tax break they're getting, that could be part of the qualifiers or compliance with the qualifiers.
Listen, the city of Philadelphia is incredibly generous when it comes to tax breaks.
Absolutely.
And incentives.
Exactly.
And
for years,
for years,
yes,
for a
years.
very long time, and,
Yes.
and listen, and our school district shows the results of that.
That's right.
That generosity that's gone to corporate America in Philadelphia really has divided us. And you see this widening gap, widening year by year by year, where the haves and the have-nots is becoming just so incredibly stark that it's frightening. We're at a point now where it's just, well, you better go and get your own.
Exactly.
And you're on your own.
And you're
on your own going to go get your own.
Yes.
And so, how do we get in front of something like this? Again, I believe it's leadership, and I don't want to, put this on Dr. Hikes. I do think that he's doing what he can with what he has.
Right.
But I do think that as legislators, as leadership, and I would say, I know that the mayor. And Governor Wolf, I know that they've met and talked about public education, but I do think that it requires a new conversation.
It really does.
And it requires, just some new energy around it and some new thoughts. And I think looking at...
And a really solid interest to do something about. I know they went to what is early childhood education, but I want to know about the kids that are in school now and how are they being educated. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're the ones going to be the leaders of tomorrow.
Right.
So
what are their resources?
What are their
resources are available to them? And what are the resources available to the teachers and the administration as a whole? What can we do to help a whole school be better and do better by our children?
Because they're sick.
Because
the schools are sick.
The schools are sick. The children are sick. The teachers are getting sick.
Yeah.
That's just one part of the problem. It's so enormous, but we can't act like, as you said, Cindy, that it's so big that it's insurmountable.
Right.
Because it's not.
This is fixable.
It's fixable.
Absolutely it is.
And so
there's just, there's so many things that we can do on education, I believe. And, we haven't even really scratched the surface.
Right.
I think that, listen, I don't want to blame anyone in particular. There's enough blame to go around for everybody.
Yes.
In terms of why our schools look the way they look. But are we looking also at things that are working? What's working? I was at a grand opening for a school in my district on Saturday called Cristo Rey.
Okay.
And Cristo Rey, is a fantastic example of it's a institution that's free. It's private, but it's free.
Okay.
And so, you apply, you have to qualify, you have to be low income to qualify. Based in Philadelphia, obviously, at 17th and Allegheny. And so these kids who come to the school actually have job opportunities outside. Outside
while they're in school.
And when they graduate. So, for example, one person in particular I know, their child goes to Cristo Rey. And this young lady has been at Comcast as an intern for the last 2 or 3 years. They love her.
Great.
She's doing a great job. There's no doubt in my mind that probably when she graduates,
they'll hire her.
They will hire her.
Yeah.
They will hire her. And so these are the kind of opportunities. But not only is it important because she's, getting a great opportunity, but she's also diversifying a corporation
Absolutely.
that doesn't, they're
Comcast
pushing.
needs diversification, okay?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And so
people don't talk about it. People don't talk
Right.
about these corporations down in Center City that need some help with their diversification.
Listen.
Because it is a sea of white workers.
Absolutely. And so how we get,
don't forget the
faces
white
that
management.
Yeah, and that's why it's
absolutely.
a sea of white workers, because it's a sea of white management.
That's right.
Faces that look like ours are scarce.
That's right.
In corporate America, in
Yes.
Philadelphia.
That's right.
And this is an opportunity to really change that. But beyond that, one of the things I learned when I did the tour is that 100% of their students are accepted into college.
Wow.
100%.
Wow.
50% of those get a free ride off the bat from academic performance, and the other 50% they work hard and find the money to be able to get them into.
Now, is this a charter school or is this a private school?
It's private, but I want to say it's private, but it's public because
Right.
it doesn't cost anything.
Wow.
You just have to qualify. But it's not funded from the district. It's funded from different sources throughout the region, different
And don't the
corporations.
Which is
when
what
they
I'm
work-
leading to with the schools. I understand that the city funds gives a lot of money for education, but the funding sources could also be from corporations.
That's correct.
And
Because
that's
we're doing
where I'm
that with
leading to.
Cristo Rey.
And he's doing it with Cristo Rey.
Because Cristo Rey is doing exactly.
That's the perfect example of what we need to do
That's
with
right.
other schools in the city.
Right.
So if we
And don't they also, the children, they work during the school year to defray some of the costs?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
See, that's creative.
Oh,
That's
yes.
creative thinking.
Oh, yes.
That's
So they have
creative.
internships, and one of the
now
things
who
that I
put
thought
that
was really
together? We
important.
need somebody to do the same thing.
Listen, we can let's talk to them.
Let's talk
Let's
to
talk
them.
to the board.
That's right. That's a
Absolutely.
perfect model.
You should go and see this campus. I'm telling you, it's just
Okay, I will.
fantastic. And it's at 17th and Allegheny. I grew
And
up
a
at
great
28th
location.
Listen, I grew up at 28th and Allegheny, so I'm just so excited to have
Yes.
them in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited.
I
And
wanna go.
it's a brand new campus, right?
It's a brand new campus, and as a matter of fact, they're still working on parts of it as we speak. But the inside and the building itself are done.
That is awesome. Well, we need to go see them.
Yes, we can.
If
We
you
can.
could arrange that for us.
I know the GCs who did the work.
Okay.
Clemens.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And so they're very much interactive with the school and with the children and what they're doing and getting the kids involved, some of the kids involved in construction. They're also
that's
they're
what we
also
need
a very creative.
Now we're going to have to take another break. I'm sorry. Are you
All
able
right.
to say a
If you
little
want to
more?
start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial on Daybreak every morning.
Mark your calendars for Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church's anti-human trafficking 5K walk run on October 5th. The walk will start at 8 a.m. at Memorial Hall, West Fairmount Park. For another way to participate, to make a donation, text Enon Tab to 77977. For more information, visit enontab.org. Enon, a place where people encounter God. Reverend Dr. Alan E. Waller, Senior Pastor.
I've had some. Word family. Our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring production, packaging, and sanitation employees right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days of employment. They're also hiring part-time and seasonal employees. Entry-level candidates are encouraged to apply. Call Scott Drummond at 856-754-0360 or visit amorosos.com for details.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. How many times must you tell a child to do something or stop something? The answer is over and over and over again. Don't spank your children. It causes violence in the world. Some people will be angry to hear this, but for sure, hitting children will make them violent and angry. Some people say, I was spanked and look at me now. I'm looking. Besides being more peaceful, not hitting children will lower your blood pressure. So ask them the question, what have you done to make yourself feel proud today? This is a serious question, so give your child a pat on the back and a hug and ask them, what have you done to make yourself feel proud today?
What have you done today to make you feel proud? It's never too late to try. What have you done today to make you feel proud?
We are Progressive Progressive and proud and interactive. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at onWURD. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com.
Good morning. Again, this is Emma Chappelle. You're listening to The Source, Black Women's Leadership Council. And we've been joined by someone who's going to speak about the fact that it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But before we do, I wanted to answer line 2, and I think Ken is on line 2. Ken, are you there?
Oh.
How are you?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm fine. It's a pleasure to talk to you ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm actually a big fan.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
Yeah, I wish they would give you more than an hour.
Well, we have 3 hours.
Yes, we're
So
on for
listen
3
to us.
hours.
Well, I mean more than just one day.
One day. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
You ladies take no prisoners. And I love it.
Thank you. We try not to.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tell the truth.
That's right.
But Councilwoman Bass, I'm one of your constituents.
Oh,
hello.
Yes.
Yes.
So I'd like to raise a couple of points.
Sure.
Questions, whatever.
Certainly.
The lead paint issue with the rental. The majority of the housing stock in Philadelphia has the same issue. The rentals are not the main cause if, most of the housing is built and painted with lead paint. So I think that's not being addressed as well while you're going down that road. And the thing about the rentals is what are the tenants supposed to do if a property has to be remediated? They're going to end up needing to find a new place to stay.
All right, she can address this in a little while. Did you have another question?
And my other question is, I live in a building that my family's owned for 50 years. For the last 3 years, it's been trashed all over my street. I've contacted 311 L&I, as well as sent an email to your office, and I've got no satisfaction. And
just tell us what's your street.
Yeah, what street do you live on?
I live in the 6200 block of Old York Road, and the only thing across the street is the church. It's other than people maybe standing and waiting for the bus, there's no traffic on that street.
So I'm just trying to make sure I understand exactly where you are. On a 6200 block of Old York Road, you're between, is that Champ Lost and?
Stenton Avenue.
Okay, so you're at Stenton and Old York Road. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Yeah, I know exactly where you are.
There's trash not on the street. Half the block has a lawn guy come. So every other week the street will be clean for 4 or 5 days. But other than that, the trash just, I don't know where it comes from. But it hasn't it's only, I don't know where.
I mean, based on where you are, I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from either, because I'm just thinking in my mind, you're not, I was thinking that maybe if you were further closer to like Champ Loss, and that's like more of a commercial area, but not where you are. Now, on residential blocks,
he says that's where he is.
Yeah, well, he's a little bit further up at Stenton, but of where you are, like the city does not clean individual blocks. Now, they used to have the street sweepers, where you would have to move your car, and that would come through once a week. That was, cut out over the years due to budget cuts. But I think that that's something that has to come back, and I think we don't not only have to do it, but we have to do it at least twice a week. And we have to do trash collection more than once a week in the city.
Yes.
The city is just incredibly dirty, and we've worked.
I believe it comes from it's something across the street. There used to be apartment buildings, and it was managed properly.
Can we?
Condos.
Can we get your contact information? And what I'm going to do is send out, we have an action team. I can send somebody out there to meet you today if you're going to be available. So if we can get your contact information.
All right, Ken, don't give it to us on the radio. I'm going to ask Kayla to pick that back up and get your telephone number, okay? Ken?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to have
Thank you.
our producer to talk to you. All right, thanks, Ken. All right, now we have in the studio, I think most everyone knows that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we have someone in the studio, Nicole Cerati. Am I saying that right? Nicole Cerati? Surratt, who's an expert on that. And I asked her to come in today because breast cancer affects so many African American women and men. And I wanted her to talk to us a little bit about that. And I've asked Councilwoman Bass to stay with us and participate in this conversation. So go right ahead, Nicole. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much
We're
for
excited
having
about
me.
it. We know that you're a survivor and that you're an author.
Yes.
And we want you to talk briefly about breast cancer and breast cancer awareness.
As you mentioned, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
So there will be heightened awareness all month, many activities, but we need to be mindful of this every day of the year.
Absolutely.
And statistics say that 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer at some point in her lifetime.
Yeah. 1 in 8?
1 in 8.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yes.
And, you know, as I shared with you the other day when we spoke, Dr. Chappelle, you know, people don't know what they don't know.
That's right.
And unfortunately, it's killing us.
That's right.
There's a
and we do seem to die more frequently from breast cancer.
Yes.
And I wondered what is that about? Why?
So our white counterparts are being diagnosed more
Sooner.
frequently.
Oh.
Earlier or
more frequently.
Oh.
So white women are being diagnosed with breast cancer more often, but black women are dying at higher rates, at around 42%.
You know, one other thing I just
What?
want to add into that equation is that as the chair of Health and Human Services, one of the things that I do is go around to the different, medical institutions here in the city of Philadelphia, and I did have an opportunity to go out and sit and meet and talk to the folks at Fox Chase Cancer Center in the Northeast. And one of the things I learned that was just startling to me is that less than 3% of cancer research is directed towards African Americans. Less than 3%
Wow.
of all researchers are directing their research towards our community. So it almost feels like, it's forget about them.
Right, because they don't understand our bodies and our environment that we have to live in.
Right.
And
the
part
stresses
of that has to do with funding. So when we talk about clinical trials, when you mention that 3%, we don't have enough black women participating in clinical trials. And so if the treatments that are now available are not based on our population. So one of the things that I do is as I talk to survivors across the country is to encourage them to be a part of clinical trials. Now part of that problem is that we've got negative history.
Yes.
Right. And we don't trust the system to work for us.
Right. And so I tell survivors, I understand we have a negative past. I believe that our doctors are more on board about that. I even was in an environment where a doctor said, you know what, I feel like I need to just apologize to my patients for what has happened in the past so that so I can build a rapport with them. But that's why we're down to the 2 and 3%.
So let me ask you.
Let her tell a little bit about who she is and what she does.
Okay, I do have a question, but go ahead.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
So I celebrated my 8th cancerversary in June.
Okay.
And I treat at the Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Philadelphia, and I'm one of their ambassadors. So I'm speaking with women all across the country. And the diagnosis was very much a career change for me. I spent 25 years in the field of education, 20 as a classroom teacher, 5 as an administrator, got my diagnosis. My job was stressful, and I realized that I couldn't fight cancer and fight the people on the job. So I came out of the job, finished my treatment, started looking for a job, and could not find one. And then I realized I need to be on this platform promoting health and wellness as a lifestyle with an emphasis on stress management and lifestyle changes, because I do believe that stress was a large contributor to my diagnosis.
I was wondering if because a lot of us, we take our positions those of us who succeed work hard to succeed, have to work extra hard to get to where we have to go.
Yes.
And I think that stress has a lot to do with illnesses that come upon us.
It does. Stress, and the bottom line is stress is killing us.
That's right.
Yes.
You know, so it's linked to not only cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, things of that nature. And I'm really passionate about that because with my background in education, I'm not just concerned about current generations.
Right.
I'm concerned about future generations, because if we as adults don't know how to manage our stress, we can't transfer those skills to our grandchildren and future generations.
That's
and what
right.
I
So
see
right.
are more generations that when you step on their foot, they're going to take out a gun and take you out because they don't know what else to do.
Sure.
So they don't know how to manage their stress. They don't know how to eat properly. You know, we need to be mindful of the things that we are consuming, because some of those things are leading us to chronic health conditions such as cancer.
Wow.
So for me, it's also about lifestyle changes.
Yes.
And I know that people realize they need to make change. I think a lot of people are just so overwhelmed with the amount of change that they need to make that they don't know where to start. So they hit the default, which is to do nothing.
Right.
And when I speak to audiences, my thing is just take the first step.
Yes.
We don't need to see the whole spiral staircase. Just take the first step to improving your health.
And so you think that the best way to do that is changing your food, what you eat, nutrition, and things of that sort?
I do.
And stress.
Those are all components. And stress as
And the
well.
stressors.
I mean, people will tell you that, you know, yes, they are stressed out. But we can't change other people. We can only change our response to them. So I'll tell some of my audiences, I'm not telling you to stop loving people, because some of these stressors are from our family members.
Sure.
So I'm not saying stop loving them. My suggestion is maybe you just need to love them from a distance. Because we've got to protect our health.
Yes.
And
Right.
as women, we are so busy taking care of everybody else that we put ourselves last.
That's right.
But if we go down, then a whole lot of other people may go down afterwards. So we have to take care of ourselves. And one of my favorite books is called The Little Book of Stress.
Yes.
And it truly is a little book. It'll fit in my pocketbook. And one of the things the author, Dr. David Rosen, said is, we don't need to think about it as me first or me only. We need to think about it as me too.
Me too.
So sometimes as women, we just
Right.
need to go away. And, you know, even if it's just to take an hour away from family, because when you come back more refreshed and more energized, your family will benefit.
Yes.
So we need to be mindful of those things.
I agree.
It's
Now,
so true.
You have a book that you read?
I do.
Tell
I
us
do.
about that.
The name of my book is called The Voice of Victory in the Valley, Diary of a Breast Cancer Thriver. And it came out in August, but I'll tell you that it sat on my desk for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
It truly is my diary.
Okay.
So I started writing it 8 years ago, and when people think about someone with a breast cancer diagnosis, a lot of times they think that's all you have is breast cancer.
Right.
No, you have breast cancer and you have life and all of its interruptions that you're juggling. And I would hear people say to me, if you didn't tell me you had a diagnosis, I would not have known, because you never seem to miss a beat.
Right.
But what people don't know is what happened behind the scenes.
Sure.
When I would
Right.
go home to an empty house, because I wasn't married at the time, you know, and I'd take off the wig and have that visual reminder, or I'd take off the clothes and see the scars. They didn't know all that I had to do before I walked out the house to make it look like nothing was going on. So this will take you on a behind-the-scenes look at what happens mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of that.
Yeah.
And you just keep going through.
Now, Rita, you had a question?
Oh, she's got a burning question.
I know.
I did, because I was really surprised. Did you say that 40 to 42% of African American women are dying
Yes.
from breast cancer?
Yes, we are.
And so white women are
statistics?
diagnosed more,
Right.
but they're living through breast cancer. Black women are dying. And can you give us some information as to why that is?
So a couple of things are happening. Number one, black women are being diagnosed at later stages. So early detection is key.
Yes.
So the later that you get diagnosed, then you have less of a window to have treatment happen. We are not having conversations in our family about medical history, and cancer has been that big scary word that, you know, we've kind of been
Yes.
sweeping.
Don't even want to mention the big C.
Right. But we have to have those conversations.
Yes.
We really
You have
do.
to have
We
the
really have to have the
conversations.
conversations. And another component.
So it is hereditary, you think?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You can be a carrier of the BRCA1 or 2 gene, but most people diagnosed with breast cancer are not carriers.
Okay.
So there is research going on to find out why is it that black women are being dying at higher rates.
Right.
Part of that has something to do with a breast cancer called triple negative breast cancer. So people
I've
think
heard
that
of
there's just one type of breast cancer. There are many types of different types of breast cancer, and triple negative breast cancer is a very aggressive type of breast cancer. It is impacting young black women.
Oh, wow.
When I say young, I'm talking about 20s, late
Wow.
20s, early
Really?
30s. And I've had some conversations with women who have said, something didn't look right, something didn't feel right.
Yes.
I'm in my late 20s. I went to my OBGYN and I heard, you're too young for breast cancer. Come back and see me next year.
Oh, my.
And some of them have gone back and it's been triple negative breast cancer. So they've missed a year of
Yeah.
opportunity. So when I talk to women, whether something doesn't look right or feel right, I say, if you hear an answer like that, run quickly.
Absolutely,
and
run.
find another doctor.
Right. Yes.
Even if you get a diagnosis and something's not feeling right, or you want to hear some other options, you're entitled to a second opinion, a 20-second opinion. It's your body, it's
That's
your
right.
journey, and we have to take more
Control.
responsibility for our health and our wellness.
Absolutely.
What do you say about people examining themselves?
That is still
That's still
important to do,
important?
and it's not just at one point there was a big push for the breast self-exam.
Self-exam.
But you need to even just visually look at the breast. If you see something that looks different,
Right.
Swelling, redness, pus, and indentation in the breast,
Mhm.
or if you feel a lump,
Yes.
those are signs that you need to see someone as soon as possible.
So definitely still perform self-examination, but also you said visually look at your
Correct.
breast
Right.
every day,
Right.
so that you can note a change
Yes.
in the condition of your breast.
Correct.
And so,
And run quickly to the doctors and
Yes.
if
and
you
get
see
a
anything,
mammogram and get a mammogram.
Get your mammogram. Get your
Yes.
mammogram. And
every year.
Some people have been diagnosed right after getting their mammogram.
I believe it.
So we don't want to put everything on the mammogram and think I'm one and done.
Yeah.
You still need to be visually aware of what's going on. You need to be aware of family history.
Yes.
And as we were chatting before we came on the air,
Yes.
breast cancer is not just a women thing.
That's right.
Men get
That's
breast
right.
cancer as well. The statistics are 1 in 1,000 as opposed to 1 in 8, but it still happens. And actually, as I was driving here listening to KYW, I heard that Matthew Knowles, the father
That's
of
right.
Beyonce, was just diagnosed with breast
Wow.
cancer.
Yes.
Wow.
And over the years, I've actually met 2 couples where they both were diagnosed
Oh my
with breast
goodness.
cancer. And I'm like, that's definitely a book.
That is a
or
book.
2 that needs to be
Right.
written.
Right. And
For
so when
sure.
they go through it, they go and get they get the mammogram or they don't. What the doctor diagnosed the breast cancer, then they go for chemo or what's the next step?
It just depends on what type of cancer you have.
I see.
It depends on your age, and you need to really make a decision for yourself. I've talked to women who have said, I got diagnosed with breast cancer on Monday. They want to do a double mastectomy on Wednesday. And I would say, well, are you okay with that?
Right.
No, but he's the doctor. Stop.
No.
Put a pause in
No,
it right
that's
there.
your body.
It's your body. If you're not comfortable, get another opinion.
Yes.
So, some people, I don't want to do any more surgery, or I don't want to go on chemo. Let me explore some alternatives.
Of course.
Whether
Yes,
it's a
that's right.
vitamin C drip, whether it's
something you got to think about.
Yeah,
And just don't
absolutely.
jump and do something.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, just because the doctor said this is what you should
Correct.
do, and
It's
it
not
doesn't
law.
feel right, and it doesn't feel right.
Your gut
And
tells you, I
your
think.
gut,
Yes.
your gut will tell you, and if there's some internal resistance to it, you've got to look at options.
Yes, yes.
Or a
And that's
second-
what people
or a second
should know.
opinion, or a second opinion.
Right, that's an option. That's an option, is that you don't have to go with what the first doctor said. An option would be seek another opinion, seek some alternative treatments. Seek options out there because they exist now.
They
We're
do.
in a world of high technology. There's so many options for women and for men today. So I think that's what I'm going to take from this, is that there are many options and that it doesn't have to be one way.
And as we talk about family history, we don't want to forget your father's side of the family.
Okay.
Because there are some male cancers and other types of cancers that are connected to breast cancer. So even if you don't have a mother or grandmother or sister, and they're called first degree relatives
Right.
in terms of the connection, you still need to explore your father's side of the family as well.
Okay.
Well, we have certainly appreciate you coming in. Did you have any questions?
Well, I wanted to thank you for your work and for your advocacy. I mean, breast cancer is obviously something that's, run rampant through the African American community, and I just know so many women who have been affected. We all know.
We do.
So many women. I can't even begin to name all of the women. Just sitting here thinking in my mind. So thank you so much.
Yes,
Thank you. I appreciate your work
for having
having
me.
me.
And I'm stretching out this year in terms of breast cancer advocacy. So I've been trained in the science of breast cancer. I've had an opportunity to speak on Capitol Hill because I know in October there are many races and benefits going on where you can contribute, but there are some laws that are on the books that need to be passed so that women and men can get the care that they need.
Yes.
So we need to be able to also exercise our votes and petition our Congress people and our senators to get these bills passed because treatment is being held up because people can't afford. And if I had enough time to even share some of the things that are on the books, you would just be so astonished and perhaps appalled that why are we even having this conversation? This needs to go through. We shouldn't have to even talk about it anymore.
And we know nothing's going through in Washington now.
Not right now.
Not right now. Nothing's going
They
through.
are stalled.
Something's going through. Maybe. The impeachment looks like it's going through.
I think so too. I think the impeachment is going through. I hope so. But anyway, I'm telling you, this is very interesting. I know it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wanted someone like yourself to come and talk to our women about it. And like you said, 1 in 8 African American women are dying from breast cancer.
1 in 8 women are diagnosed.
Or diagnosed.
Will be diagnosed at some point in their lives.
Right, 40 to 42%
correct
of African American women who are diagnosed are dying.
Yes,
that is
a large percentage.
Amazing. That's a lot.
Scary.
That's almost half.
Yeah.
And I just want, if you are a survivor listening, just to be encouraged. As we share, things have changed so much over the year. Breast cancer is not a death sentence.
Right.
Cancer is just a word.
Right.
That's it. So, connect yourselves with people who are positive. There are other survivors such as myself who are out there doing things in the community to get connected. You are not alone. When you feel isolated, that's when you feel like I'm hopeless.
Yes.
You know, you got to keep fighting.
And you don't
Absolutely.
You don't just die. There are reasons for that. That people think because they have breast cancer they're going to die. That doesn't necessarily mean.
Not at all. I'm in a circle of women who have 30 plus years under their belt.
Isn't that
I'm like,
something?
that's my testimony. That's the direction I'm going.
Absolutely.
Have you heard of the organization United for Her?
Yes, I have.
I heard that they do an excellent job with women. They give them massages and things like that to take care of them because they need the extra support during the times that they're suffering.
And
nurturing.
Nurturing.
Extra attention. I mean, we're talking about a physical change.
Yes.
You may lose your hair.
Right.
I lost my hair. Hair is overrated.
Right. I heard you say about your wig.
I agree too.
I agree.
Yeah, but you need to know that you're still beautiful.
Right.
And we shouldn't identify ourselves with our breasts.
Right.
We're more than that.
We are.
We are.
Right. We're beautiful
We definitely
women.
are.
We're beautiful women.
But breasts
we're
are
queens,
just
African queens,
glorified in
society. Yes.
And so we.
Especially
we
now,
grow
everybody's
attached.
pushing
We're
up their
attached to that
breasts.
as women. We're attached to our breasts as women.
Right.
So if you're faced with having to make a decision about whether you get a mastectomy or not, it's very difficult because it's tied to your identity.
Yes. Yes.
It's tied to our identity as women.
And there are support groups. There are Facebook support groups. You can connect to us. And I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of those ladies. So they're doing wonderful things in the community, especially around triple negative breast cancer and around metastatic breast cancer. And those are the stage 4 survivors.
That's
Wow.
something. I remember when Race for the Cure first came to Philadelphia. I was a part of that effort. And we used to have, I guess they still do, on Mother's Day, have the walk.
Yes.
Yeah, and I used
Yes.
to be very much a part of that. Then I could walk down Benjamin Franklin Parkway. But, I mean, like you say, there's so many organizations that are have what you call services available for women who have breast cancer.
Right, and there are organizations that if you don't have insurance, that's no excuse.
Okay.
You can get your mammogram.
Good.
There are different organizations that even may have a mobile mammography van where you can get your mammogram done. If you are about to get your mammogram done, get a 3D mammogram. Some people still don't know that 3D exists. It gives you a better picture, or it gives the radiologist a better picture and can alleviate some false alarms. So ask for the 3D mammogram. If your insurance doesn't cover it and you have to pay $25 or $50 more, it is so much worth it.
It's worth it.
Okay, so your insurance has to cover it. It's not your doctor who would prescribe the 3D. You can ask for it, or so how does that work?
So when they write a script for a mammogram, you can ask for a 3D. All facilities don't have the equipment right now, so you need to ask if they have it and then find out if your insurance will pay for it.
Okay, great information.
And
Thank
the other
you.
thing is, I don't assume one of the risk factors for breast cancer, one of them is being female, the other one is age. And I don't assume that when I'm in the presence of elders that they are on top of getting their mammograms.
Right.
I don't assume that anymore, because one of my mothers, one of my spiritual mothers, I assume that she helped me with my journey, that she was on top of it and she wasn't, and she got a diagnosis. So when I'm in the presence of women, regardless of their age, I ask them, you know, are you on top of it? Do I need to call you to remind you? Do I need to pick you up and take you?
That's
you know,
right.
So we've got to really be proactive
and
about
we need
our
to
health.
do that.
Yes,
we need
and support
to do that.
each other.
That's right, and support each other. Now, I know that you have to go all the way to Lancaster. Is there, and I wanted to know, is there any closing comments that you wanted to make?
Sure. If you would like some more information, we talked about the importance of having conversations. There is a mother-daughter conference on Saturday, October 19th. It is sponsored by the Community Empowerment Group. It will be held at the Temple University Student Faculty Center, located 3340 North Broad Street in Philadelphia. It is a free event, and the focus is teenage dating, domestic violence awareness, but I will be there as a workshop presenter. I'll be there signing my book as well. And this is a great time. If, you know, I know that mother-daughter relationships can be a little hairy, but this is a great way to start mending fences and bringing mothers and daughters together. There will be lunch, continental breakfast.
I've been to that conference before.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
It's
really
and
fabulous.
It's free. All you have to do is register.
I took my nephew. I didn't take my
What'd you say?
I took my nephew.
Oh, no.
He's 30. He was staffing me that he went with me.
That's like,
I bet he loved it.
That's
well,
like,
you know what? It was good as a young man to hear about, you know, domestic violence and dating and relationships and all that kind of stuff. So.
But
it's a great conference.
They will cover that as well.
Yes.
Yes. And again, it's a free event. You just need to register on Eventbrite, and you would go to CEGMDD19.eventbrite.com. And if you'd like some more information, you can contact the organizer, Gwen, at 267-736-8801. And again, I'll be there. I'm happy to speak with you further about breast cancer awareness and prevention and education.
Right.
Because we just need to know more about what we can do.
Absolutely. Well, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming.
I got to thank Nakia.
Yes.
It was because of Nakia that I met you. So tell her I say thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks again, lady.
And we look forward to having you on again.
Oh, I would love
this
that.
is very interesting and very important for our listeners.
Very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Break. We have time to take a break now, and then we'll come right back.
Get your money straight. Get my money right. With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan. Fridays on Wake Up with Word. 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
We filmed Pennsylvania adoptive families and asked them why more people need to become foster or adoptive parents.
As a society, we have a responsibility to make sure every kid gets from being a kid to being a responsible adult.
I would encourage anybody to do it. You get so much more out of it than you expect.
Visit adoptpakids.org to watch the video, meet the kids, and learn how you can become a foster or adoptive parent.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
WordRadio.com.
Join the Shoppers Paradise Black Expo 2019 at Temple University, Mitten Hall, December 14th and 15th from 12 noon to 9 p.m. Call 484-524-3614. Enjoy food, fun, community forums to support black business, performances by Intruders and Shirley Lights.
The Source with the Black Women's Leadership Council.
We all go through something. It's not everybody. And I think if you think you're physical, you go to a doctor, you go to a dentist, you go to all these people, you have to take time out for yourself and get some mental health.
You know what I found out, and you're right, because we don't always know ourselves and we have to listen, but others can help you, therapy can help you. And one of the things, because when you start to have medical issues, and you wonder, because some of them are stress related, I realized that I don't sit down and have a quiet meal.
Don't miss The Source with the Black Women's Leadership Council. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
All right, we're back. This is The Source, Black Women's Leadership Council. This is Emma Chappelle, and we have with us Rita Hill and Councilwoman Cindy Bass. And Cindy, we were talking before we went on the air about some issues around education.
Yes.
And what our recommendation, before we went off the air to talk about the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we were talking about education and some of the ideas that we have that could help what's taking place in the school system today, and how we see to it that our kids get better opportunities, better resources, better education. And so I wanted you to continue with that because you had some great ideas.
Well, I think the key thing that we have to remember is that as we're giving out all of these incentives, and again, Philadelphia is incentive rich for our corporate community.
Yes.
So as we continue to give out these corporate incentives to come here, to stay here, to be in particular zones, to develop, we also need to tie that as much as possible to the support of our schools through sponsorship, through adopting a school. But there should not be a situation where you have this thriving Center City and the areas immediately surrounding Center City, and then the further out you go, the more disparities you see, the separation, the disconnect from our communities, and it really all starts with our school district and with our school system, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I think, it's long. It's really overdue. I'm just
Long
surprised
overdue,
that
yes.
someone hasn't stepped up and suggested this, because, like I said, whenever somebody says we're going to have some big event, when they were trying to get Amazon here, they put all this money together,
Yes,
all
they
this
did. Yes.
resources,
Quickly.
and to pay for Amazon
That's
to come,
right.
who said they're not coming. Now we wasted all those dollars trying to woo them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And when we had the Democratic Convention come,
Same thing.
they did the same thing.
Yep.
Same thing with the Pope, when the Pope was coming.
That's
Think
right.
about all the dollars that they could find.
It's a matter of priorities.
It's a matter.
When we talk about, one of the things, I'm just going to take a minute of personal privilege if
Sure,
I can.
go right ahead.
And just complain just a little bit.
That's all right. That's what we do here.
That's okay. That's
But,
fine.
We do that here.
We have a series of events in the district called Reclaiming Our Public Spaces.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we go into our neighborhood parks and recreation centers that we all know a lot of places people wouldn't go into.
Right.
Because they
Right.
sold drugs, because bad guys was hanging out, because they didn't feel safe. And so one of the things that we said we wanted to do was reclaim our public spaces. These are our playgrounds, parks, recreation centers.
That's
They belong
right.
to all of us. We are
Yes.
taxpayers, and we should not be handing them over to anyone. So we go out and we have these events Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday and Friday and Saturday throughout my district. We do movie nights, we do concerts, we do all kinds of stuff. And we took a little bit of a hit. The Inquirer said, "Oh, well, you spent money on this." Let me tell you, we spent less than $3 per person on an event. That includes food. We feed you when you come.
Right.
Because truth be told, it helps people in our community stretch their budget,
Yes.
stretch their food
That's
diet.
right.
Yes, it is.
That's right.
And so we feed you, we entertain you, we give you information, we give out gift cards. There's all kinds of things happening. We sign you up for services. We have information about all kinds of
great
resources.
opportunity.
It's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
And I say that because, like I said, we spend less than the fare to get downtown and back.
Right.
That's
right.
On having these events.
Exactly.
And at the same time, when the city does these huge events that are in Center City, we close off part of the parkway for the Oval.
Oh, yeah.
I still don't understand the concept of the Oval. I'm sorry.
That's right.
But we spend we spend a lot of money.
We do.
And it's almost as if because it's in Center City or because it's in particular neighborhoods that money is better spent than the money that's spent uptown.
That's right.
At Morris Estates or
and we know that's
Vernon
not
Park,
true.
and we know absolutely that's not true.
That's right.
So
That's right.
and I say it's a matter of priorities with all things that we do
Right.
in Philadelphia. Our neighborhoods, our underserved neighborhoods have to be a priority. When we fought against stop and goes, we made it clear that our priority is to make sure that the addiction issues that we have in our community, that they cease, that these people are doing business in a way that is harming our communities, harming our neighborhoods, promoting,
And they were being allowed to do
promoting
it.
addiction, yes, selling crack pipes and all kinds of things,
That's
over-the-counter
right.
medicine, liquor, shots of liquor.
That's right.
To people who are clearly inebriated already. I mean, just all kinds of things happening. And we couldn't get the support, once again, of our local news, not WURD,
of course not.
But, like not the
Right.
main, downtown media folks who felt like, oh, you're trying to put certain people out of business, or you're
Right.
trying to, like this is a problem. It became an issue about bulletproof glass. It was never about bulletproof glass.
Right.
That was a red herring to draw people's attention away from the real issue, which was the addiction that was happening in our community that
that's right.
continues to happen and is promoted by these particular businesses.
Yes.
And at the same time, we talk about safe injection sites. And, and I said it before, I'll say it again. When you have a different type of addict, you have a different type of possible solution.
Right.
And so the solution and the attention for some people who are addicted does not apply to others, and it's just not fair. We need to really seriously
agree.
address addiction issues in Philadelphia.
We
so
really
that's
do.
another thing. That,
well, you segued in. You talked about parks and recreations, and I have two pet peeves that I have to talk to you about. One of them is Rebuild.
Yes.
What the heck is going on with Rebuild?
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
And
We definitely
and
need
the
an
second
update.
one is, I live off of the Martin Luther King Drive. And why do they have to close Martin Luther King Drive every Saturday from April to October? and it totally conveniences the people who live in that neighborhood.
Inconveniences.
Inconveniences
Yes.
the people that live in those neighborhoods, and it's been going on, and people feel, and the people who are bicycling up and down that drive are people from out in the suburbs who come into Philadelphia, and they get to bicycle and walk all up and down the drive, and we can't get access to the road so that we can go places. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
I remember Mary Mason used to talk about this for years.
Oh yes,
And
this has been an issue for a very long time.
Yes. And it's just totally unfair.
It's
Right.
totally
And so how can we address it?
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's totally unfair. But you know that there's an effort to close it, I think, year-round.
No.
No.
They would kill off the people.
There's an effort underway right now.
Why?
To close it year-round.
It's a major thoroughfare.
It's a major
and
thoroughfare.
to extend the amount of the closure, so it's not just from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever the closure is,
right.
but pretty much close it for the entire weekend.
Why?
Every year, so that it's an open space for people who want to bike or walk or whatever. And listen, there's bike lanes, there's hiking paths, there's plenty of sidewalk, there's plenty of opportunities.
So why do they have to close the road off?
So I would agree with you. We don't have to close the road.
No, right.
We have to listen. We want to promote outdoor activity, but we have to also be sensitive to the folks who have been here, who have been living here for a very long time, and who feel a different way. Myself included, as someone who's a lifelong Philadelphian.
Right.
I know. Listen, every once in a while. I usually, when I'm coming into Center City, I take Kelly Drive.
Right.
But on the, and I remember when it was East River Drive.
Yes, remember when it was East River Drive?
And then, but every once in a while, I'll try to go on the west side, and I'll remember, it's closed.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't do it.
Or you go over the Falls Bridge and it's blocked.
Right, and then I got to go up and around and around.
And it's a really inconvenience.
It really is. It really is.
And to take, and when we look at it, now I understand when they have runs, that when they're raising money and things for things like breast cancer and other, they close it off. But now they close it off for people for bicycling and walking and what have you, and it's really not that kind of volume that you would think it was.
Right.
Because we look at that, we say it's not that kind of volume.
It's not.
And it's mostly suburban people who are coming in, and they have a place to ride up and down, and the people who live there are totally inconvenienced.
Yeah, and
so
have to ride around and across.
Yes, right, and across, and then try to get on the expressway, which is bumper to bumper, and you can't get downtown, and you can't get to anywhere that you're trying to go.
There's really a movement in Philadelphia to encourage or to have less transportation on the streets, less cars on the streets.
Really?
And I think it started with the Pope's visit.
Oh.
And there was a group of people who felt, remember when all the streets were closed up and you couldn't move around?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great idea. Let's do that again. And so they did it again, and I think originally it was in South Philly, but in the last 2 years it's been up North Broad Street.
I see.
Which, I just think is very interesting because it almost feels like, hey, everybody, come pick out. Come pick out what you want on North Broad Street.
Exactly.
And so it's a little disturbing.
Yeah, I don't know who starts these things, but they have an awful lot of power to just change people's lives. And like that, and inconvenience make them
right. And when did it become a policy that they just closed the entire drive down?
I know.
When did that happen?
Oh, it's been years now.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So I just returned back to Philadelphia, but when I left, it wasn't so.
Is that right?
Yes, okay. I left in 2001, and the drive was not closed every weekend.
Well, it must have closed right after that, because I know for a fact Mary Mason used to complain about that because she lives on the road behind me, and all those people said, "What is the deal? Why do they keep closing down this road?"
Right,
and it's an inconvenience. And the other question I don't want us to forget is rebuild. Now, what is going on with rebuild?
Can you give us an update on rebuilding?
Yeah, since that's Parks and Recreation, because I know people, especially minority groups, are having a hard time getting
getting work.
They are.
They gave all this big spiel about minority businesses. We're going to be able to do business, entrepreneurs, and they are put by such standards. They are requiring such standards that it's impossible for them to do it.
Yeah, it's very onerous. If you are even awarded a contract, it's very onerous the things that you have to do and the hoops you have to jump through just to get the contract award and be able to actually service that contract. It's so difficult.
Well, you know, as you may be aware, there, not to veer off a rebuild, but when it comes to contracts in the city of Philadelphia,
we don't get them anyway.
We don't get them anyway.
No,
and
we don't.
So there was a piece,
and if we get them, they take them away.
And well, I was just going to say,
or they give you such a tiny one.
That's right.
There was a piece that was written by Ernest Owens from Philadelphia Magazine just like a week ago or so.
Oh.
And it showed the contrast between the largest African American contract in the city of Philadelphia. I think it was like $17 million.
Yeah.
Which they lost.
Oh,
and
that was PRWT.
We've been talking about it.
Yeah, and we talked about that for months.
And they contrast that with the new vendor of the voting machines.
Right.
Who, had the exact same
situation
happen, and were essentially given a fine, a slap on the wrist.
That's right.
And so, you know, trying to like balance, like how is it that this could be acceptable for one organization that's vying for a contract, and yet for another minority contract, it's totally unacceptable. They cannot. We can't consider it.
Exactly.
It's
right.
You know, they broke the rules,
and they take it away from somebody who had it for years,
for a very long
and
time,
who had other subcontractors, minority subcontractors, who really suffered from them losing the contract.
And as I understand it, that contract went to a non-minority who's outside of the city.
It did.
That's right.
It really did.
That's right.
So you
now,
know,
how do you justify that?
Well,
you
because we all know that even so in procurement law that there's discretion, that they have a certain amount of discretion if it's not if the amount in question is not material to the contract.
Right.
So I've studied it. I've worked it throughout my career. I know procurement law. I know what is available to the decision makers, and they do have discretion.
But
that's what they exercise
right.
for the other for the voting machine firm. They exercised their discretion and gave them a slap on the wrist, a fine. But for PRWT,
they wouldn't do it.
They weren't afforded that same right.
Right.
Yes.
And so
we're going to have a hearing.
Are they?
Good. I'm calling for a hearing.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
Let us know when that hearing is. We want to be
we will
there.
support you,
That's
and
right.
yes, we will. We'll be right there.
And we want to make sure that we just really get down to the nuts and bolts. How did this happen?
That's right.
How did it happen? And how?
And why is it happening
and
all
why
the time?
is it happening? And I want to encourage all of your listeners to please, you know, we'll make sure that you know when the hearing's going to be.
Yes.
Please have your folks come down.
Absolutely.
Everybody come down, because, you know, numbers speak, volume speaks.
Yes.
And so when you show up and show out, people pay attention.
That's right.
Okay, that's
good. They want to see you in the place. You know, that's going to make a big difference. So that's where we are on the contract side, and there's a lot of work to be done around that and rebuild. Let me just start by saying that, you know, as a chair of Parks and Recreation, we've been fighting for rebuild to be fair, to be equitable, to make sure that there was minority participation and inclusion from the very beginning.
Yep.
And, you know, we got a lot of pushback. From different sources, including from some of my own colleagues. But that's okay, because as long as we're doing the right thing, you know, like you can push all you want. I believe if you're doing the right thing, you're going to be successful.
Right.
And so making sure that there is minority participation written in was our goal.
Written in.
But it was written in, but implementing it
is different.
And the actual way that it's digested and then interpreted and then put into action.
It's
that's
two
a
different
whole
things.
Other thing.
That's a whole different thing.
Yes.
And that's what we felt from the beginning, that it wasn't enough teeth in the legislation.
Right.
And in the event that you didn't hit the numbers, and that you didn't have the minority participation that you anticipated and that
we
you
talked
wanted.
about that.
And we talked about it over and over and over. And we said, well, where are the teeth? What happens if a prime contractor doesn't use minority subs?
Right.
What's going to happen to that prime? Nothing. There was nothing written in. So there's no way for us to enforce compliance.
There was just recently, I'm trying to think where I saw this at. There was just recently a piece that I wrote, probably in one of the local papers, but it referred to, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was referring to the lack of penalty.
Right.
Of, this is what it was a suburban contractor, had a contract with the city of Philadelphia. He lied, he made up a minority a minority sub. It was his son-in-law who had the last name of like Rodriguez, or like a Hispanic surname.
Right.
And so he used that as a
minority
participation to meet his goals. His wife was also listed as a woman-owned business.
I know
the wife was a nurse or something like that. She had no idea what the business.
Construction background.
No construction background whatsoever. And I
but
think
that kind of thing's been going on for years.
For a very long time. And I think that the penalty is something like you're out for 3 years. You know, I say you're out permanently.
You're out permanently.
We did a bill a few years ago. We have this trash and sanitation task force, and as the caller Ken mentioned about trash, the city is so doggone dirty. So anyway, we got this trash and sanitation task force. We were out at the Logan Triangle, which is part of my district, and I had a crew of folks out there. There was a reporter with them talking about the trash problem. And as they were out there, lo and behold, a backhoe pulls up and dumps right in front of them.
Oh, my goodness.
And so, and what's worst about it is we found out that the driver of the backhoe, the people who were dumping the materials were city contractors. They had a contract with the city of Philadelphia. And so that gave us the idea to put in a bill that says if you are caught dumping and you are a city contractor, you are forever barred from doing business with the city of Philadelphia. Well, let me tell you, the word came back to me. You know, I'm not going to, say from exactly who.
Right. But
the word came back to me that people were upset in the city and felt, well, a lifetime ban is too harsh. Why is Councilman Bass doing that? A lifetime ban, oh my goodness, that's just so hard.
Oh my
It's such a hard penalty.
But they should not be allowed to do business
Listen,
in this city.
you learn from a child
That's right.
that when you take your trash and you put it into a trash can.
That's right.
And so these are people who are paid by the city of Philadelphia to do a construction
and
project.
dump in trash.
And then they dump it, and then the city now has to pay to
clean it up.
To clean up after them. And also
and the
in
community
their contract,
also. The community suffers
the
also.
community suffers.
I think just recently they covered somebody who went into a neighborhood and dumped trash like that, a big truck, and they were trying to
horrible,
and they were trying to find out who they were. Or was it the city? They went right in a neighborhood and stopped and just dropped a bunch of load of trash.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
There
Just
should
right
be a
there.
stiff penalty
That should
because
be
it's a
stiff penalty.
deterrent.
Yeah.
From people doing it.
If you start,
and they thought that they were city contractors.
If you start giving people a serious penalty, and even better yet, if you pull out a pair of handcuffs. If you catch somebody on the scene and pull out a pair of handcuffs, listen, it's going to stop.
That's right.
It's going to stop. And we don't want to, I'm never for putting people in handcuffs, just because I just, the history of this country.
Right.
But at the same time, we have to show people, we have to do something.
We
have
need
to
do something.
To show that we are serious about dumping. And a lot of the dumping that happens, with these large construction projects, these aren't people who live in the city of Philadelphia. They're people who are coming in, renovating illegally, which is a whole nother subject.
That's a whole nother subject.
No permits, no safety.
Right.
Not keeping you safe, not keeping the construction folks safe, not keeping the people who are safe who live next door. There's all kinds of things going on.
Right.
And enforcement matters, and it's not happening.
And you know that one of the reasons they dump illegally like that is because it costs money.
That's right.
To dump. When they take their trash and they take their debris, it costs money.
Yeah, so they dump it.
So they
just
dump
it wherever they can.
So they
now, one last thing I wanted to ask you about, and that's gentrification.
Yes.
That's a real complaint of ours.
Yes, and that 10-year tax abatement.
And a 10-year tax abatement they're getting for doing the gentrification. I want to know if there's a policy, is there a plan, is there something that it will stop at a certain time, or is it just going to be all over the city? Because what happens is you have people who going around and buying up these houses from poor people for a little bit of money, moving them out of their neighborhoods, moving them up to the Northeast or somewhere, and then these communities are changed, and the culture is changing in our community.
Yes.
So the city council have some kind of plan so that this stops, because North Philadelphia has almost been re-gentrified.
Well, I introduced a bill last year, as a matter of fact, to totally take away the 10-year tax abatement. I think it's the only thing that's really fair.
And that's what's doing it. That's what's doing it.
And it is. It's fueling gentrification.
Yeah,
it is.
It's really displacing people. And it really, really just compounds this situation of a tale of two different cities here in Philadelphia. And so we think that the 10-year tax abatement should go completely. There are a number of other proposals from some of my colleagues, and we'll see, what happens. It looks like at this point there might have to be some compromise to probably slow down the rate of the 10-year tax abatement, phase it out slower. But I'm
make it for less time.
Or make it for less time. I'm for getting rid of it totally.
Right.
If we have the votes for that, then I think it should go.
Get rid of it.
There's a lot of developers who feel like, development's going to dry up in Philadelphia. I don't believe that for 1 second. Don't believe the hype. It's not. That's not going to happen.
No.
There is still so much to be done and so much opportunity here in Philadelphia. Unlike in cities like New York and Washington, D.C., and even Baltimore, Philadelphia is really uniquely positioned to have development for decades to come without there being any sort of negative consequence.
Because the New Yorkers can no longer afford to live in New York.
They're coming here.
They're coming here.
Yes.
And
They're developing here.
That'll go on for years because New York has just outpriced itself.
Absolutely.
And so, and now what I'm worried about is Philadelphia is outpricing itself. Because the cost of living is going up. I just saw them where they built a condominium building I don't know if it was Kennedy Boulevard, and the minimum purchase price was $2.1 million.
Wow. That's starting.
Starting.
Yeah, that's pricing
2.1 million. So they're changing the whole culture of Philadelphia.
Where was this?
On Kennedy Boulevard or Market Street. I'm not sure. Market or Kennedy.
Okay.
But when I looked in the paper, the minimum condo was $2.1 million.
Wow.
So that tells you they're getting all these tax abatements and things of that sort, building in downtown Philadelphia and moving in people from the suburbs and the African American community. You don't even see us no more.
We're so displaced. We're so far away.
Right.
And we're not. Listen, we're not on the construction sites.
Nope.
We're not on the jobs.
Nope.
So we don't even have the economic benefit.
We don't get the entrepreneur. We don't get business.
When people say, "Oh, well, you're going to drive," the jobs are going to drive. Well, whose jobs?
Exactly.
Because these jobs, I see license plates from New Jersey and Delaware. I see them as far away as Virginia. Coming here. Yes. In construction, there's probably 100% employment in Philadelphia right now.
I believe
Except that those of us who are of color who are doing construction are not at that 100% rate of employment.
Not at all.
Not close to it.
Right.
Not at all.
And I mean, it just goes back to the issue of who has the will to make the change.
That's
so the policy and the will to have minority participation has to start at the top, and that's the mayor.
It has to stop at
that's
the
mayor's office. And from there it trickles down, and then you can see the effects throughout different commerce, different industry,
everything.
But it has to be a commitment and a will to do that from the top. So we can talk about it all we want.
Top. There's no will.
There's no will
because we've been talking about it for months.
When are we going to have some real conversation with the mayor and his administration on their commitment or lack thereof?
Okay, we have to take a break, and we can't thank Councilwoman Bass enough for coming in today and sharing with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
That. All right, we're going to take this break, but I want you to come back and close out when we get done. Okay.
All right.
Brothers and sisters! Don't miss The Source. Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on WURD Radio, WURDradio.com, and the WURD Radio app.
Temple University was founded on the belief that everyone deserves an opportunity to do and be more. Today, that's still our belief, and we are committed to strengthening Philadelphia, starting with the community we share with our neighbors. The North Philadelphia Workforce Initiative aims to break the cycle of poverty by helping youth, veterans, returning citizens, and other people secure jobs that pay family-sustaining wages.
I'm Shirley Moy, Director of the North Philadelphia Workforce Initiative. My vision is to provide opportunities for people with a range of abilities. It's about people acquiring additional skills through resources Temple can offer, so our neighbors can advance and explore new career options.
See what's possible. Temple.edu.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to WURD Radio. Independent Black Media.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the Mattress Man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Brothers and sisters! Don't miss The Source. Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on WURD Radio, WURDradio.com, and the WURD Radio app.
When is the last time your doctor spent time with you, listening to your concerns and answering your questions? Do you feel like your doctor and their staff truly care about you and your health? Let me tell you about my visit to dedicated senior medical centers. First, they focus exclusively on senior health care. Second, the doctors spend more time with their patients because when they know you better, they can help you feel your best. They've even partnered with Philabundance to help seniors determine if they qualify for free monthly food boxes. They truly care about their patients. They also offer services like door-to-doctor transportation, on-site lab work and medications, acupuncture, and weekly health and wellness classes. So, if you or a loved one are Medicare eligible and you'd like the time and attention you deserve from your doctor, call Dedicated Senior Medical Center to schedule a free tour. Call 267-443-1900. That's 267-443-1900. Dedicated Senior Medical Centers.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, this is Juanita, owners of JD's Auto Body and Painting. We're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue, right there at the intersection of Wayne and Washington Lane.
We really like to thank all you WURD listeners for the support that you've given our business, and we really hope to see you in the future.
JD, tell them about our products and services we have.
We have a new state-of-the-art paint shop along with our body shop and detail shop. We can help you with the dents and scratches from the winter season.
Come to JD's Auto Body and Painting. Come on out and check us out. We're still honoring that WURD 10% discount. Give us a call, 215-848-5949. Again, 215-848-5949.
Thanks again for supporting our business. We really appreciate you.
See you at JD's Auto Body and Painting.
Now, with more clarity, this is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at WURDradio.com.
Good afternoon. You're listening to The Source. This is Black Women's Leadership Council. I'm Emma Chappelle, and we're here with Rita Hill and Councilwoman Cindy Bass. Councilwoman Bass, it's been such a great pleasure having you today.
Thank you.
You certainly have given us a lot of good information because we're always talking about the city and city council and what it's doing and what it's not doing, and about the mayor and what he's not doing, et cetera, et cetera. But to have you come in and throw light on a lot of the issues that concern us in our community, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so-
Absolutely. My pleasure.
I would
Thank you so much.
I really would like you to close out now and with whatever you want to tell us that we need to be doing as we go forward.
Well, first of all, I really want to thank you. I really enjoyed hanging out with you ladies. It's a lot of fun. If everybody listening, it's a lot of fun in here. So no, seriously, thank you so much for having me, and I really enjoyed it. And I'd love to come back and spend some more time.
Please
with you.
come back.
So please let me know when I can. I do want to let you know about some of the things that I'm working on, so that you can spread the word. And if we can, get folks out to participate in some of these hearings. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be having a hearing. We're going to introduce a resolution tomorrow, assuming that it's ready, either tomorrow, next Thursday at the very latest, on the disparities in the issuance of the contracts, specifically around PWRT and the voting machine situation. And again, I want to refer people who are unfamiliar with that to PhillyMag.com and Ernest Owens' article, which I think very succinctly puts the case before us in terms of why this is really wrong and really bad. So be on the lookout for that. Also, we are going to be reintroducing a tax amnesty bill that we have brought up in the spring.
Oh,
the
I
idea,
remember it. Right.
Yes,
I remember it.
yes. The idea
That
was
was horrible the way that went down.
Yeah, that was really tough. That was really tough. It was very hard to imagine that we didn't want to give the citizens of the city of Philadelphia, the everyday hardworking taxpayers, a break.
Exactly.
And that, listen, we know people get jammed up, and, these are people who are willing to pay, but who haven't necessarily been able to pay throughout the years. And then you have people who have an abatement who have
don't have to pay.
Right, who don't have to pay, who have the ability but don't have to, and could make a contribution but don't.
Exactly.
So we think that we're going to bring back that tax amnesty piece, as well as even when we look at the fact that we're putting out some funds now, or we intend to do a transfer ordinance to put out some funds to look at commercial corridors and cleaning commercial corridors. And that's a great thing. I intend to support that because I want my commercial corridors clean, but I also want to give a break to the folks who have been working hard. So if we can put out money to clean up, and again, in our commercial corridors, a lot of the businesses aren't owned by people from our community.
No. That's right.
And at the end of the day, they take our dollars and they go on out to the suburbs.
Exactly.
With the schools that we're going to go enroll our children in.
That's right. So we're coming.
So we're going to be bringing back tax amnesty. Also, we're going to be, vigilant on the tax abatement piece. And, we expect that there likely will be some movement during this legislative session of council. So before December, I think that there will be some action taken on the 10-year tax abatement.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes, very much
wonderful.
very much overdue. Very much overdue.
It's been an unfair policy.
Absolutely, for a very long time.
Yes.
On Parks and Rec, we're going to stay vigilant on rebuild and what's happening there, and continuing the fight to make sure that there are minorities, people of color, African Americans and Hispanics in particular, on the jobs, and also as contractors and subcontractors.
Yes.
We deserve to have an opportunity to participate economically in what's happening in our neighborhood.
That's right.
And it's a sin and a shame not to have that happen.
And they say they have all these kind of programs that they're going to make it available for us. And they're failing.
Right.
We're still not.
Right.
That was the whole reason.
That's
right.
That was the whole reason for Rebuild,
Right.
was for a concentrated effort for minority participation in construction.
And we're still not getting it.
And we're not getting
happening.
it.
And the people at the top making the decision are all white. They're just not black, so nobody's making sure that the black businesses get the business.
That's right.
And so the issues and the difficulties that black businesses face are not being carried forward in those decision-making
I got to tell you,
corridors.
I had a big conversation with the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation, and it was sort of like, this was back in the spring, a back and forth about a couple of contracts, and really looking at those contracts and saying, well, why aren't we putting this out to bid so that someone, a minority could have an opportunity to bid and participate on a catering contract.
Right.
And then there was another one like a parking concessions. And the thought behind it was, well, we'll do it next time. We'll get to that next time. Right now we're in a hurry. We'll do it at some other point. And it's like, no, we'll do it now, because if we don't make it happen now, it's never going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
And when I think about that, and exponentially across every department, having those conversations in which we say, they say, well, we'll get to it.
Right.
We'll get to diversity. We'll get to it at some point. They never get to it. So we have to hold folks' feet to the fire.
Absolutely.
Real quick, because I know I have to go. I know your other guest is waiting, but DHS, Councilman David O, is likely going to be bringing back his hearing, calling for an investigation or a hearing or a task force looking at why Philadelphia has the highest displacement of children from their homes, from their primary, from their parents or caregivers, their family members.
Is that the case?
Philadelphia has the highest child removal rate in the nation.
What?
And so, yes. And so
why
is that? Why is that? Now we had a conversation about this back in the spring when Councilman O initially brought this resolution forward, and unfortunately it was not supported by the members of City Council, by the majority, I'll say that.
Right.
We need 9 votes to be able to make this happen. We could not get 9 votes on council to make that happen. It seems like a no-brainer.
It does.
It doesn't seem like this is difficult.
Right.
I don't understand why we're unable to get some movement on this, but we're going to keep going until we get it right.
Okay.
You know, we're going to keep pushing until we get, you know, for those who voted against it for whatever reason, we're going to go back, do the lobbying, do the effort,
Yes, absolutely.
And find out why this is happening.
and find out why this is happening, and have you and your listening audience come down.
That's right.
And you know, like, just let people know we're
Just
paying
let us
attention.
know.
That's
Just
right.
let us know.
We are
We'll be
paying
there.
attention.
Yes.
And last but not least, as I mentioned earlier, Stop and Goes, that's something that we've been working on for a very long time.
Yes.
We passed the bill, you know, but we've had not the level of success that I had hoped that we would have at this point. We have had some closures, some changes, but not the large scale of changes that I thought we would have by now. So we are
And what
going
is
to...
the reason for that?
Right.
I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think some of them lie within city departments, but also the coordination with Harrisburg and the Liquor Control Board and Liquor Control Enforcement. And one of the things I was told is that, you know, out of Harrisburg in particular, there is not the impetus to try to make this change or make this happen because that's how they're funded. You know, that's where their money comes from to operate as an agency.
That's
through
right.
the proliferation of all of these different licenses and agencies. And so...
we're still going to have to hold them accountable.
We have to
because
hold
it's
them
not
accountable.
good for our
Yes.
community.
Absolutely.
It's not good at all.
No.
Not good.
Okay.
Disruptive and
Everything.
illegal.
Yes.
Well, we once again we thank you.
Thank you for
we
having
thank
me.
you so much, Cindy. I call you Cindy.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's you've been wonderful. You've shared with us all of the things that you're working on, and and Councilman David O. and we're interested. We really want to make sure,
Thank you.
as you talked about when you first came on, that your issues are the quality of life for the people of Philadelphia, and really that's ours too.
Yes.
That's ours too.
And we are here to support you. So
That's
whatever
right. So
you
much.
need, you
That's
let us
right.
know.
I
And we'll
certainly
be there.
will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll
I
be there.
appreciate you.
Thank you
Yes.
so
Thank
much.
you so much,
And we
ladies, for having
appreciate
me.
you for coming.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right.
Okay. Yeah. afternoon, everyone. You're listening to The Source. This is Black Women's Leadership Council. I'm Emma Chappelle, and we have in the studio Rita Hill, Esquire, and we have Sultan Ahmad. He'll be talking to us shortly, but before we have 2 phone calls, one with George on line 1. George, you're on the air. George?
Hi, George.
Hi, George. Are you there?
Fine, I'm here. How are you ladies doing?
Oh, we're good.
Good. How are you?
And Sydney did a very good job, and she explained how council works.
Yes, she did.
Know? And one thing I respect and like about her, unlike me, she never throw her colleagues under the bus, even though some of them deserve it.
No, she sure didn't.
I'm glad that she said that she's going to have hearings on the minority part of the contract.
Yes.
Now you'll see the she-devils in council.
Yes.
That's not the problem. It's those she-devils in council who always backdooring, walking behind the scenes, whispering and, trying to trying to knock something down,
Yeah.
Just like David O. You got certain people in council, but you know why? His thing was he would help poor black people. They've exempted that, and they told him, you keep helping them people, those people not going to come out and vote for you.
Wow.
Because he would never go in against the grain of doing things against poor people.
Right.
See, even though he's a Republican, he has basic core principles, something that others in council don't have.
I understand.
But the only time they're black or anything like that there is when it's election time. 6 months before election time, they super black.
Yeah.
Any other time, those she-devils in council.
Oh, yeah, we're very much aware of it. Yes, we are.
One Thursday, Ms. Chappelle.
Yes.
We were talking about you seen a she-devil and you had to catch yourself not to say anything.
I sure did.
I mean, it's a shame. It's a disgrace. But, and let me say something about this gentrification foolishness that we have. Blame certain council people for it. You can't say something about gentrification. When people sell their houses, you can't make people keep their house if they don't want it. They come in here, they offer people money, and people sell.
Yes.
Or their parents left them a house and they sell. That's not gentrification. That's called people sitting there bargaining to get your house for nothing, and you go for it.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But that's still part of the problem.
That's still part of the problem.
Yes.
Right. When you have city blocks of city property that you have them sign it off and give it to developers and all that there, and, you got to remember, low income to most people in this city is $100,000 to $200,000 houses. Now, if you only get a check, you got 2 or 3 jobs, how can you pay $1,500, $1,600 a month? Your house is $300,000. That means your mortgage is $3,500.
Right.
Just in basic core principle. But you watch how this council go. You think that they did black people in the last 4 years? You watch those she-devils who are trying to get to that second floor. They don't care what they got to do or how they got to do it.
All right.
Like they say, those who are going to vote for us, no matter what they do, they're going to vote for us. Those who fight us, you got to always give them something. So if you think kissing up to those council people get you something, you're sadly mistaken. If you fight them tooth and nail, like the queen of she-devils in council is Helen Gim, who hates and resents black people, but has an artful way of. She just memorizes them. They so happy to be in her presence because she's talking all that there. And watch how this whole education thing went. Height is the next one. His head should be on the chopping block because he cares nothing about poor black children. Now, you're talking about all that asbestos. Ben Franklin isn't the only place that got that asbestos, and he knew it for 3 years.
That's true.
People had asbestos in it.
He had to know
but
that.
The problem is,
all those
the
old
biggest
schools.
asbestos remover in this city is African American.
Yeah.
Okay, they're part of the union, and they told him, "Listen, let's get a head on this here before it gets out of hand." He's so busy of trying to make the school board thing look good, riding around in new cars. Every 2 years they get new carpet. But they're all his friends, how they say, his inner circle who gets the contract.
All right.
If you want to see something, go to procurement and look up the contract.
All right, George, we're going to have to let you go because we have a guest in the studio, but we appreciate your call.
Yes, thank you.
As always, okay? Next one is, I know, he was telling it like it is.
He sure was.
He was. He's telling it like it is.
He was exposing everything.
He was. I appreciate his call. Line 2 is Gary. Gary, can
hello.
you?
Hello, ladies.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Gary.
Yeah. Good afternoon. I know you have a guest coming around. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but what George said, he's right on point.
He sure is.
For having Councilwoman Cindy Bass on. You know, it's a shame that we have politicians in office that really don't work. They work with special interest groups, with developers. All you got to do is just, follow the money.
Yeah.
Remember at one time we had the MBEC Minority Business Enterprise Council?
Oh, yes. I was very much a part of it. Yes.
Okay, well, there's some things going on there that now we have the Office of Economic Opportunity. Now, if you go to Florida and Fairmount where that new hotel is being built, I don't know what they're building, extending the parking lot and all that.
Yes.
When I go by there, and I potentially go by there and sit there for a while, I haven't seen a black person there yet. Maybe he's hiding somewhere. Maybe they send him out to get lunch or something. I don't know.
But they're not there.
You don't see any of us out there. And what gets me is that, I understand more of our people need to participate more in the election process.
Right.
But here's the deal. You're elected to office. Whether I come out or not, you're supposed to be working for my best interest. I think it's a great betrayal at the way they neglect our communities. Like you just mentioned, Ben Franklin, I drove by there. They're moving as best as take the students out of school that particular day. They're not knowing this thing going on in all of our schools. So you wonder why some of our children have learning disabilities.
Yeah.
And teachers exposed to contamination, and they can go home and put their heads down on their pillow at night and feel good. And like someone said, they'll come out when they want our vote, and we need the black vote. But when we need you to work for us and look out for us, they're not there. The gentrification is through the off the chain, and also the tax debate. That should be scratched all together. They want to say, well, we'll modify it. We'll make it a little less. No, it should be gone. I'm so tired of these New Yorkers and this, forgive me, people are arrogant. They look at us like we should be here, but we've been here all along.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just want to close on this.
All right.
High School, they tore that school down. I know Drexel put that school down. I understand what's up with Boys Club. Drexel has that. I grew up in there, and I'm very concerned by that. I go to the community meeting, and I found out that's going on. So the bottom line is, we need to wake up as a collective and stop letting these people in office, take advantage of us.
I agree.
Thank you, lady.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for your call.
All right, we're taking a break now, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Sultan Ahmad.
EcoWord. Wednesdays on Reality Check with Charles Ellison. 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word. No, not the station, but this word, J-O-B, that is. And our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you on their team today. They're currently hiring for production, packaging, and sanitation. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they're hiring right now. Check it out. They're offering fair pay and provide health and dental prescription plans after 90 days of employment. They're also looking to hire part-time and seasonal employees as well. Entry-level candidates are encouraged to apply. Call Scott Drummond at 856-754-0360 or visit amorosos.com for more details.
This is Word Radio, independent black media.
PICO presents a special evening of the Living Legacy Jazz Award at the Kimmel Center on Friday, October 11th, celebrating the life and legacy of Charles Tolliver, American jazz trumpeter and composer. Join past awardees featuring a gala reception, award ceremony, and seats for the performance of Marcus Roberts and the Modern Jazz Generation. Visit midatlanticarts.org and click on Living Legacy Jazz Award for more info.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Good afternoon. This is Emma Chappelle speaking, and we have a guest today, Sultan Ahmad, and we're going to talk to him. Sultan, tell us about yourself. What do you do?
First, let me just thank you. And,
Rita Hill.
Rita Hill, and
thank you.
And Kayla.
For inviting me to come on. Let me thank the Lomax for all that they do to keep this message and information vehicle going through our community. And let me just thank all the WURD listeners out there. I'm no stranger to this station. We've been a part of it when it was back in the old days with HAT.
Right.
We had a regular show, and then when we moved down Delaware Avenue, then we moved over here.
Right.
So this is like part
You
of
go
my
way
home,
back.
too, part of
Okay.
my home. And then on the holidays, I come in and play music because people love it when I come in on
Okay.
either Thanksgiving or New Year's Eve.
Okay, great.
But I'm glad to be here. But I got a couple issues that I really want to take a minute to talk about. For those who may not know me, I've been a part of, I guess, the landscape of Philadelphia for well over 70 years. Thank God I'm moving towards 72, so praise the Lord for that.
Right.
But for over 40 years, 45 years, community activism, starting as a young man in the Black Panther Party, and then moving through the ranks of the civil rights movements, then coming into entrepreneurship, then going into government served in government for over 24 years, came in under the Good administration. I was the field director for his first and second election, and then was awarded the opportunity to run the anti-poverty agency for the city of Philadelphia. And I look at the numbers of poverty now,
Wonderful.
and I look at the 27%. I don't believe is a real legitimate number because there's
It's
a lot
even
of
higher, right?
underreporting that's not
That's
there
right.
because
Absolutely.
we have those that are employed, then we have those that are unemployed, but those that we have who are unemployable. So I think there's some numbers in contradiction underneath of that. Then went on to the Philadelphia Parking Authority and spent 18 years there, and eventually retired as the first deputy, but for a period of time I was the executive director of that. And one of the things I got a chance to study was the money. Being a young kid, going back to what in the old neighborhood that you wrote numbers on, the number industry was an industry that took care of a lot of people.
It sure did.
And provided for a lot of people. Because if somebody said, "I'll give you pay 5 cents on this number, and if it hits, you get $20."
That's right.
That was unbelievable.
That's a
great bargain.
right.
So studying numbers throughout
the lottery displaced that business.
Anything that we do,
that's right.
The Black Panther Party started the breakfast for school children, and then the government finally came along and said, we're going to pre-breakfast in every school.
Right.
So the reality is that when we study the numbers, we found out a couple key things. And I want to do a quick civic lesson that every year we vote. Every single year. Every year that we vote, there are 2 issues beyond the candidates that appear on the ballot.
Yes.
It's generally a bond question, and there's a ballot question.
That's right.
There's a ballot question on this year's ballot that talks about minority set-asides and the request to do an increase to the Office of Procurement to move that money from $34,000 to $75,000, which is supposed to be a vehicle that will get smaller businesses into the opportunity of getting those procurement contracts.
Yes.
And then there's a bond question that you will be voting on November 5th. Should the city of Philadelphia borrow $185 million to be spent for and towards capital purposes as follows: transit, streets, sanitation, the municipal service building, parks, recreation, museums, economic and community development. So with that background, let me talk a little bit about.
And can you remind the people that they need to register to vote?
Oh, there's no question about that.
By October 7th.
It is no question.
That's right.
We got
these bonds come before us. Half the time we don't know what they are.
That's right.
And
we vote, and they get voted in without us knowing what they are.
And that's part of the contradiction. Historically, we don't really have a good sense of what the ballot question is or the bond question.
That's right.
And you know, the government tries to put the information out. It puts it out maybe through some of your bills, or they may run a few ads, but the real civic education of what's taking place doesn't really happen, in my opinion.
It doesn't filter down at all.
And historically, the bonds have always been set for the infrastructure of society. Where we build highways, bridges, the electric, the water systems. You see the streets torn up, and we repair that over 30 years, and we come back and maintain it over 20 years, and we come back and check it over 10 years, then we float another bond to reinforce it. So society is maintained by its infrastructure. But why not deal with the human being?
Right.
So we've come up with an idea that's called the $600 million social impact bond. And what we mean by that, we're talking about a bond that could affect the social impact of society.
Yes.
What we're saying is that this bond could create dollars that would deal with this whole issue of unemployment among youth and adults, deal with job training and development, We believe that this bond could fund students who want to go to colleges in their local neighborhoods. We can put them through a 4-year college opportunity. They can come back and work with community-based organizations or work to strengthen the community, do due diligence, do research, do whatever is necessary to enhance those organizations. We're talking about a bond that could look at public health and public safety. The opioid crisis is something they use this new terminology, but we always knew the drug crisis.
That's
it
right.
was always a drug dilemma.
Yeah. Now they're saying that.
Now that the pills
That's
have
right.
taken the place
Right.
of some
Yes,
of the powder,
that's right.
it's become the opioid crisis. But we're also saying that public health and public safety needs to be addressed from the standpoint of having safe corridors for our children,
Yes.
having safe corridors where we go to shop, town watch, or just a whole increase in that. We're talking about rebuild right now is an idea that Mayor Kenny has been working with, rebuild. But in fact, this idea of rebuild is something we talked about almost 10 years ago.
Is that right?
Right. And so now we rebuild all the recreation centers, but what about staffing them? What
Right.
about additional money for programs?
That's right.
What about running
They haven't
programs
talked about
that
that
could go
yet.
They sure
24
haven't.
hours a day
Yeah.
and impact our youth, impact
That's
on juvenile
such a good
delinquency,
point.
you know, impact on growth and education, impact on education. So that's another part. Then we talk about in this bond about dealing with strategically funding commercial corridors. You know, along the city of Philadelphia, there are many commercial corridors: Ridge Avenue, Columbia Avenue, Cecil B. Moore, 52nd Street, South Street. You go throughout our city,
Yes.
Germantown Avenue, and there's still many abandoned buildings and properties there. What about giving young people an opportunity, or anyone who wants to go into business, a chance to go into those buildings, get stock on the shelf,
Right.
line of credit. So
Yes.
you say you can get $100,000 worth of stock. We ain't gonna give you the money in your pocket,
Mm-hmm.
but we will invoice and provide you with the dollars that you need to get stock on the shelf. What happens then? You provide goods and service. You provide employment. You're dealing with
Right
tax
in the
base.
community.
Right in
Right.
the community, and you're
Mhm.
actually
Like we used to
supporting the
do.
tax base.
That's right.
Correct.
Right.
And then there's so many community-based organizations. I know when I ran the mayor's office, and this is many years ago, but there were over 1,500 501c3 or community-based organizations
Yes.
who are always working with shoestring budgets, always.
Always.
But they're delivering services to many of the constituents in council, in the state house, in the state senate, in the Congress, in the Senate.
Right.
But they find a way to help people, but they don't find enough dollars and resources. So we're saying let's put up a fund that could support community-based funding in a strategic way. And all of this is done over the same 30-year terminology that we use when we float bonds to do the infrastructure.
Yes.
So now we're taking a different discussion and we're changing the conversation to create a way for people to understand that if we're going to build the infrastructure, why not build the human being?
Right.
If we're going to
To
change
go with
the
this new
highway-
infrastructure.
That's right. I mean, Mayor Street floated a $500 million NTI bond.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Rendell, when he was in office, he floated a $300 million bond that dealt with highway gas emission, and they took a short 2.0% on all the trucks that hit 81 or 85, and that's how they paid the debt service. The idea of bonds is that bonds fix a problem now, and you pay for it later.
Right.
And you find a revenue stream that becomes a source of that. Now, I heard you talk about earlier where we got all these corporate
That's right.
entities in the city of Philadelphia. And some are good corporate neighbors and some are not so good corporate.
No.
But there's an opportunity for all of them to play a role in giving dollars to deal with the debt service. But solving the debt service is not the issue for me. What the issue is for me is to understand that we have to begin to get people to talk about bonds and why they're important.
And to understand them.
And understand them. I got one little quick statistic I want to throw on you right quick. It says California, just the other day, and it'll be on their ballot next year, California just approved a $15 billion school construction bond.
Woo.
All right, $15 billion.
Wow.
They're going to put $9 billion to deal with preschools, K through 12, $2.8 billion in new construction, $5.2 billion in modernization, $500 million into charter schools, $500 million into career technical schools. Then they're going to give all of their colleges and universities another $2 billion.
Wow.
All of that's coming out of a bond. several years ago when Patrick Duval was the governor of
Oh, yeah.
Massachusetts.
Mhm.
He took a human capital bond, or social impact bond as it's called, and created a $100 million line where they could deal with all of those ex-offenders who are returning home
Mm-hmm.
and create jobs, gainfully employ them. The recidivism rate went down to 0.
I'll bet.
Because people had a chance to become employed,
Mhm.
take care of themselves, take care of their family, and they're now not tax burdened, they're taxpayers.
That's right.
So the idea is that if we can invest in our youth and in our community and in our neighborhood, we can make a difference.
Yes.
There's about 10 states in America that's using social impact bonds right now. Pennsylvania is not one of them, but there are 10. For example, Colorado just launched one to deal with social impact bond to deal with education and development. Connecticut just passed a social impact bond that will enable them to do research in the health industry.
Right.
Massachusetts is launching a bond that will deal with reducing recidivism among juvenile offenders,
Mhm.
all right, and as well as money to deal with the chronic homeless problem. New York just launched one to deal with the problems facing those who are unemployed. New York State, New York City just did a bond that would once again deal with the issue of juvenile offenders and recidivism. Pennsylvania is one of the only states, not the only, but there's 10 that's doing it. Pennsylvania has not come to that point. Philadelphia has not come to that point. Bonds resonate through our city council.
Yes.
And I'm glad you had Sister
Cindy Bass.
Councilmember
Yes.
Bass on.
Mhm.
And I talked to her, and this is not a new idea.
Right.
No.
For us.
But it
let me-
makes sense.
But let me give you where the origin of this came from.
And would you give me an idea of where it would be housed?
Okay.
Where it would be?
12 years ago, we met with a group of young people and asked them, what were the issues affecting y'all? We had several youth leadership workshops. And you said, we want jobs, we want to be safe,
Mhm.
we want to go to college, we want to own businesses, we want to be able to go to community groups and get help.
Right.
They gave us 6 categories. We had a stenographer there, and I stenographed everything they said. Then we began to have discussions. So this issue for me, I've been pushing this issue for about 10 years with legislators.
Oh, long time.
Each time legislators say, well, you know, the city's debt limit is already at this point or that point, and
Right.
we don't need to incur more debt. Well, you know, if we look at the tax rebate, the $79
That's right.
million dollars, you can take a portion of that and pay the
Pay-
debt service on this.
exactly.
You can get the other portion from your corporate friends in this city.
That's
so
right.
I'm not worried about where you do the debt service. But the idea is that this is not reinventing the government. If we were to have $100 million available in recreation, it would go through the recreation department.
Mhm.
But it would create a new vehicle of support for recreation facilities throughout the city.
Right.
If there was $100 million that would go into commercial corridors and businesses, I think last week in City Council, Sherelle Parker bill that dealt with adding more people to keep the corridors clean.
Mhm,
So
that's right.
30-something people,
Yeah.
12, 15
Yep,
now.
that's right.
Yeah.
We could create a workforce of 1,000 of them
Mhm.
around all the commercial corridors, or even
And it's
the
very much needed.
and the neighborhood commercial,
Yeah.
the neighborhood areas. We can pay them out of the bond. These once again, when people work and get paid, what do? They spend
Spend
their
the money.
They
That's
spend their
right.
money.
They add to
Increases
the
that
economy.
tax base.
It creates the tax base.
Yes.
It creates. It takes away the dilemma of taking from someone else
Right.
because I got mines now.
That's right.
It changes the complexion. If we were to fund recreation fully and have activities morning, noon, and night, do you know the impact that would have on juvenile delinquency?
I'm telling
Absolutely.
you.
That's
That's
what
right.
they used to tell us, idle mind is the devil's workshop.
That's right.
Yeah, years
But if
ago, that's what we had.
Right.
That's who staffed the rec centers in the summertime. It was the kids.
Exactly.
Because I had summer jobs
That's a fact.
at the playground,
That's a fact.
at the rec centers.
And if you got programs that are creative and development and educational and well-being, now you're impacting their cultural. So
and you're keeping them busy. 'Cause
and
right
that's
now they're
and
standing
you're
around.
actually fighting this culture of violence.
That's
because
right.
the violence culture is bombarding what our children and adults see every day. But
Absolutely.
now you're impacting that.
That's
and
right.
the drug and the drug
The
and
whole
the
thing
drug
with
Because
drugs.
that's the only economy that the young people have is
Yeah,
the drug
drug
culture.
culture.
That's it. That's the only thing available for them.
So our idea is to look at how we could solve some of these problems. We say that reducing idle time give youth and adults something to do, going back to the concept of working for a living. Strengthening
Yes.
the education system and its outcome. Restoring the feeling of health and safety in our communities. Restoring positive recreational activities in our community centers. reestablishing the economic base of our neighborhood commercial corridors, and then ending this cycle of poverty and dependency that leads to growth, limited growth for families.
Yeah.
The bond is something that in Minnesota they had a bridge collapse. That evening,
It sure did.
the
I
state
remember that.
legislators met and approved an $80 billion bond to restore that bridge.
Wow.
They put a gas tax on all of the vehicles that would go to pay the debt service over each year. To
Is that
pay
what
the
they
annual
did?
Debt service. And the way I got into dealing with bonds, I always studied the bonds, but bonds has a historical aspect because back during slavery and in the South, you had all of these major plantation owners who had all of these different slaves, but who they got free work from to produce their product, but they didn't have a way to get these products to the North. So they had to industrialize the South.
Yeah.
And they taxed each of these landowners based on the number of slaves they had to pay the debt service, but meanwhile, they created new highways or tore down trees to get their products to the South. Bonds have been used historically. So this is not
for years
a
and
new
years.
game.
Yes.
This is not a new discussion. It is a question of changing the discussion of not just investing in the infrastructure, but investing in the human being.
And people.
And if you invest in the infrastructure for 30 years, so we fix the pipes for 30 years, just imagine if you got 30-year programming support going for someone in employment.
Yeah.
Or someone that's a youth. Just imagine, this summer, Dr. Chappelle, there were only, and I could be wrong on this number, but the number I heard, there was about 6,500 summer youth workers.
Yes.
That worked only 5 weeks, all right? When I ran the Mayor's Office of Community Service, a couple of hay years, we had about up to 29 to 30,000.
Really?
That worked 12 weeks. Then we had youth that were in classroom experience from 12 to 14 that got a little stipend.
Right.
Then we had youth that were 18 to 21 who were also employed.
Right.
But the reality of it that many of those young people that was paid through the summer youth program and they were linked to different organizations got a chance to keep those jobs because some of those organizations trained those young people and showed them and shepherded them.
Yes,
and said,
that's exactly what they did.
Because over the last 2 years, I've had youth workers and I've kept them on.
Right,
After
yeah.
the summer program is over because they did an excellent job.
That's right.
So
it could lead to their jobs.
So if you
and their
imagine
career.
that we had 25,000 young people and young adults working, being paid out of the bond, working part-time, after school, weekend jobs, in our neighborhoods, cleaning our neighborhoods, supporting community-based organizations, supporting block groups, whatever the role may be, being paid through the bond. Once again, there's a debt service that will be paid, but the taxes that comes in from each of these employees now add to the growth of the city of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So I'm just challenging council, and it's not a challenge.
I was going to say,
council.
how do we get something like this implemented?
Well, you got to get this implemented through city council.
Okay.
Because all legislation, just like the 2 bond questions that we're going to vote on November the 5th, were part of a discussion that came about. Then they were on the primary ballot. Now they'll get approved in the general election.
Okay.
All right. So it has to be where a council person looks at this idea and begins to go to the floor and say how we can implement this.
I see.
We have to have a
so
resolution.
So it has to come up for discussion.
Then once it becomes a resolution, it goes on the ballot. Because when you're borrowing money, they have to get the approval of the people.
Sure.
Because so every year we've voted on a bond question. If I asked you, what was the bond question last year?
Yeah, I wouldn't remember.
I wouldn't be able to tell you.
No.
What was the ballot question last year?
Wouldn't be able to tell you.
What is the ballot question this year?
Still won't.
And I'm not doing that to. But I'm saying the average person, because we're not getting the civic value to understand that, but we have to approve this. And once we approve it, then government
as taxpayers, we vote on it. That's right.
So if they're going to borrow $185 million next month, this is the ballot question, bill number 190431. Should the city of Philadelphia borrow $185 million to be spent for and towards capital purposes as the following: transit, streets, sanitation, the municipal service building, parks, recreation, museum, and economic development. We looked at their bond and said, okay, well, we're going to propose a bond that will look at similar. We're going to look at 6 categories. And this number might not be right.
Right.
We just took a number based on $100 million
per capita
for each one of
area.
these categories.
Yes.
Right.
This could be wrong. We could have it do $1 billion.
Right.
I mean, the city has the ability to borrow the money once the people have approved it.
Of course.
And then think about the other side of this, Dr. Sabel. There's a back industry to the whole bond structure.
You're right.
What bank holds this money?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask
And then
you.
how
Where's
do we
the money?
leverage the bank?
That's right.
To say that, okay, you holding $100 million over there.
And you're making all that money on that.
On that.
Yes.
Now let's be kind to the people in our neighborhoods.
That's right.
Create some low interest rate for housing. Give them some home improvement dollars.
It's a lot
Give
that can
them
come from
some-
that.
Right,
That's
over
right.
a
They have to
period
pay
of
it.
time.
Yeah.
So if over
Right.
30 years I getting 3% on 10,000 and I let that money accumulate, I got some nice residual dollars coming in as
That's
a
right.
dividend factor.
That's right.
So it's
As
a
a dividend.
whole civic education that we're trying to put forth
Behind
for
the
folks.
bond.
That's so
Plus,
important.
If people look at, I vote for a candidate, I vote for a ballot and a bond question.
Right.
And I might see the candidate afterward. I might get some help.
Sure.
I don't know what happened to the bond and ballot question. But just imagine if I vote for a question now that shows something that's going to help me.
Exactly.
That's going to increase turnout.
Well,
That's going to increase people coming
That's
to the
right.
polls.
That's
because
right.
I have a civic interest
Yes.
because I know there'll be employment, there'll be education opportunities, there'll be commercial economic growth opportunities,
Yeah.
there'll be public safety opportunities, there'll be
All
funding
kind
for
of
community
opportunity, yeah.
groups. So it's a whole journey that we can take in there.
And it supports the people.
Yes,
And
that's
it
the
supports the people.
education piece is so important because
doubt.
if they understand what it's all about,
right.
I think you will have overwhelming support.
I think so too.
We're on
Who's
a-
not going to support this?
It is a common sense approach
common sense.
to legislation. Plus, this is not just a program
Right.
where, I get
Yeah.
money
Start
for a
today and
year
end
it's
tomorrow.
over tomorrow.
Yeah.
If we borrow this money over 30 years,
Right.
that's a 30-year track of development.
Exactly.
That's a 30-year track of support.
30. That's 30
then
years
we
of
want
impact.
We want to have a legislative oversight body because if this is
I was
coming
going
out
to
of
ask you who oversees something
well,
like this.
we don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
that yet. We want to get people in that discussion. But it's just use an example that we've been kicking around. If we go into 10 councilmatic districts and we have, say, 3 representatives from each of those districts who are elected or appointed, whichever way the combination, they would be part of this bond administrative council. They would have to have an actual staff, an executive director, so that we can actually know what are the results that are
that's
taking
right.
place.
It
What are
almost
the
creates a
outcomes?
department.
It creates a department,
Yeah.
it creates employment, and once again, it creates an oversight vehicle that'll give us an understanding of what is actually taking place. Because even when this bond is passed, how much went into recreation?
Yeah, we don't know.
Right.
How much went into
And so
it?
you'll
Because
begin to mine that
we've been
data
fixing
and
the
keep
municipal
that
service
data.
building for about 20 years.
Honest to goodness, and it's still
It
not
still
fixed.
look the same.
It still looks the
So
same.
we've been floating a bond every
That's
year
right.
that
Yeah.
had.
That's
so
right.
now in this 185, I don't know how much will be broken off into each one of these categories. But I
No.
do know that when council do their transfer ordinances and they say, well, we're going to transfer 10 million to the Department of Rec or 10
Right.
million, it is dedicated for that particular purpose.
Yes.
And then these bonds, they go out on the market. You can go and invest. The investors make sure.
Yeah.
And this is a sound investment.
It's a
because
money generating.
It's a municipality
Yeah.
bond. It's backed by the municipality.
Yeah.
And that's a key important.
So it's safe and it's and it's a good rating.
No doubt. No doubt.
So now you have to get it before City Council.
Well, we got to
Someone
get.
has to sponsor it.
Get somebody to sponsor
yes.
it.
I talked with Cindy Bass on her way out. I've had an earlier conversation with Council President. I have an earlier conversation with Derek Green. At one point, a few years back, we had Wilson Good Jr. and Ed Nilsson who was going to run point on it, but both of them didn't get reelected.
Right.
But it was something that they looked at.
Okay.
And as I said to people, people say, well, the city's debt service is at a certain point. Look, the city's got grade A credit.
Yeah.
They're on Moody. They're top of the clock.
Right.
We pay our bills. Their tax revenue comes in on time, so they do.
Yeah, it's not a
the
problem
city
to the city.
And then, if, like I said, if we're talking about 79 million that we kind of grandfather every year that we don't we take back because of the tax abatement
Yes.
that the city pours in. Well, there's a way to generate revenue out of
Right.
there. And then, like I said, our corporate name. But I don't need to figure out how you do the debt
No, you
service.
don't.
What I need to figure out is how we can get this information to the people. And
Yes.
that's why I'm glad y'all giving us a chance to come in here today and talk about it. We put together a coalition of a collaboration of a number of groups. We're doing, got some young people who are setting up our internet platform or our whole social media platform.
Okay.
We're going to have a Facebook up on it. Because our hope is that we can get this discussion going, because next April will be another election.
That's right.
It'll be the
And
presidential
it'll be an important
year.
one.
It'll be a very important
Very
year.
important.
But it'll be even more important if we
you
got
can get
this
that bond on there.
on
That's
that
right.
ballot. So we're
It'd be
gearing
important
up-
to Philadelphians. It would help us.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
gearing
Oh,
up for
absolutely.
that particular time period so that
Yeah.
we can move this in front of people. But right now, we're just passing the message. We got a simple, and we're making it easy and simple to understand.
Yes.
You vote for bonds and ballots every year. Here's one that will invest in the human being.
Yes.
Will invest in society, people. Will serve the people in the neighborhoods of Philadelphia through employment, college education, public health and public safety, staffing our recreation facilities and programming, dealing with commercial funding that could expand, because you could create a whole new commercial security force. You could create a neighborhood security force.
That's
I mean,
right.
there's so many things that the companion bills that will come out of this bond will show how the other implementations would be.
Yeah.
But the idea of the cycle that we're trying to push right now is to get, if we're going to talk about ending the cycle, then we need a real tool.
Yeah.
And
This
the real
changes
tool is
everything.
money.
We're talking about
This
ending the
changes
cycle
the
of
game.
cycle of poverty.
Yes.
It
That's right.
ends the cycle of poverty, and it changes everything.
That's correct.
It
That's
changes everything.
That's correct. That's the idea. So we, if anyone is interested in becoming a part of what we're doing, you can call us at our office, which is the Sultan Jahai Community Foundation. We're located at 1901 West Oxford Street in the OOIC.
That's
building.
right. That's right.
Reverend
And
Sullivan's
you've made it
pictures right there.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Made it
we,
beautiful.
we've been struggling for 16 years. We've had to build, but we're finally in there now.
Yeah.
We're doing programming. We've, been slow walking this thing. I'm an old flat-footed hustler, so I got patience. I got patience.
Yeah, it takes
And,
time. Takes time.
Because we've been talking about this for 10, 12 years.
Okay.
But I believe this is the
It's
right
time.
time.
It's
It is
time.
the right time to challenge our elected officials to think outside the box.
Exactly. We were just talking about
and y'all
that.
said that
We
in
just-
the earlier
yes, we
program.
did.
Thinking
Yes.
outside the
And,
box.
think outside
and
the
we
box.
asked for the plan
That's right,
from
we did.
City Council and the mayor on what they were going to do to address the poverty rate
In
in
this
this
city.
city. And we never got an answer. Well, here,
Here
This
it
could-
is.
this could
And this
be
is
right
only
here.
6 categories, but if you pull out all of the ingredients related in these
Each year,
categories,
that's right.
you will see it'll have an effect on employment, it'll have an effect on education,
Education.
it'll have an effect on public health,
Yep.
it'll have an effect on
Economic
well-being of our
development.
neighborhood. So it puts ourselves in an ideal position of growth for the
absolutely.
city.
Okay.
And it's a
This
way
is
that
a
we
game
can change the
changer.
problem.
All right, well.
So our number right quick is 215-787-0857, 215-787-0857. That's one. Thank you, ladies, again, and thank everyone
Thank
for
you.
listening.
We're
Thank
gonna
you
need
so
to,
much.
We need to wrap up. I want to thank you for coming in
No
today
doubt,
and
no
telling
doubt.
us about this bond for the people and social impact bond.
This is wonderful.
Thank Rita for coming and participating
Rita.
as always. And
Thank
I
you,
want to
Miss
thank
Emma.
everyone for listening and tell you we'll see you next Wednesday.